Chapter 271. Number 1 seed? Is he the most powerful one? Lu Cheng's mother, Qi Fang, asked without confidence. Thanks to the temporary silence of the audience, Jiang Fei and the others heard the question. Although they didn't want to admit it, they nodded honestly. Theoretically, yes. Then isn't Cheng in danger? Qi Fang hissed. As a cultured and caring father, Lu Jisheng had learned a lot about the seeded players. Hearing this, he pulled his wife and said, "Why are you so nervous? Cheng has achieved his goal of being in the top 4. It doesn't matter if he loses. In the words of the TV commentator, he just needs to enjoy the competition and fight to the best of his ability. The number 1 seed is the number 1 seed." He didn't like to surf the internet, so he didn't know about the previous hype and the argument that lasted until today. What's wrong with me caring about my son? If you don't care about winning, why are you here? Qi Fang retorted stubbornly. Then she said thoughtfully, "The top 4 will get 200,000 yuan in prize money. That's enough, that's enough." Jiang Fei and Qiu Hailan looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. If Cheng lost to Zhang Zhutong, the internet would slander him. And losing to Zhang Zhutong was highly probable. These days, as the number 1 seed, Zhang Zhutong had been in the limelight. His competition had attracted the most attention. Tao Xiaofei and Chao Lele had watched it live since they had nothing else to do. They were impressed by this powerful figure who was known as the number 1 young martial artist in Xing province. "I didn't expect brother Lu Cheng to be his opponent," Qi Yunfei murmured. She recalled what had happened before. Brother Lu Cheng and Zhang Zhutong had bumped into each other at the side door of the Mingqi International Hotel, where she was staying. However, at that time, brother Lu Cheng had no one paying attention to him. He hadn't been invited to the youth tournament banquet, and hadn't even caught brother Lu Cheng's eye. Zhang Zhutong, on the other hand, was the focus of the crowd. He was the favorite to win the tournament, and was surrounded by many fans. Who would have thought that the two of them, who were in opposite situations, would meet in the semifinals? Brother Lu Cheng will win. Qi Yunfei, Chen Xiaoxiao, and Ma Shi prayed silently. In the living room of the Lu family, Lu Yanwei saw the result of the draw and subconsciously looked at his grandfather, afraid that he would call his friends and family again. This is not a good chance to show off. He is likely to lose this competition. "See? I told you not to call old Xian and the others." Lu Jiqiang straightened his back and reprimanded his wife. "Although I haven't studied much, I know that the number 1 seed is much stronger than the number 5 or 6 seed. Wang Lily glared at him, but didn't say anything. Just then, the phone rang and old master Lu Debong picked it up. "Lu Debong, your grandson is in danger. My boss says that guy is very strong. He's the strongest young man in our province." A strong voice came from the other end of the phone. Lu Debong guffawed. "He's already in the top 4, the top 4 of the entire province's young generation. Our family is very satisfied. So what if it's dangerous? We don't expect him to be the champion. There's only one champion, and it depends on luck and blessings." Phone calls came in one after another. Old Master and Old Madam replied to them one by one. They looked a little tired. After all, they were not as happy as when they were showing off. In Lu Cheng's high school classmate group chat. "Damn it. Why did he get Zhang Zhutong? I was expecting Cheng to get Lu Xuanjin and enter the finals. He could wear out the other guy with his stamina." Tao Xiaofei sent an emoji of "I'm so angry." As a bar-goer, he had dabbled in smoking, drinking and gambling. After entering the top 16, he bet 10,000 yuan that Lu Cheng would win the championship. If he had known that he would get Zhang Zhutong, he would have used the money to check Gao Fen's nightclub. Isn't it normal to get Zhang Zhutong or Han Zhifei? It's even better if he doesn't get one of them. Du Liu replied with an emoji of a panda scratching its head. "I know. I'm just venting." Tao Xiaofei said with an emoji of spreading his hands. Other classmates appeared one after another, and suggested that Big Dog should send red packets to cheer for Lu Cheng. "Little son, what do you think of this match?" Wei Renjia asked Sun Yixing, Wu Qinggue, and Chu Weikai while touching the bags under his eyes. Sun Yixing thought for a while and answered, "Anyway, Zhang Zhutong is recognized as the number 1 martial artist in the province under the age of 26. Even Han Zhifei admits this. He just thinks that he has a 60 to 40 chance of winning against Zhang Zhutong. He showed off his English. After all, he had taken cultural courses in the martial arts school. If Lu Cheng can beat Zhang Zhutong, he will be recognized as the #1 fighter in the province, regardless of whether he can win the other one in the finals. He is very strong, but I think he is still a year or so away from that position. Sun Yixing expressed his opinion. To accommodate the broadcast, the semifinals and the finals were arranged very tightly with only an hour and a half of rest. Physical strength, the strength of the semifinal opponent, and the intensity of the match would all affect the final match. The loser was not necessarily weak, and the winner was not necessarily strong. Arthur Liu doesn't fight for the #1 position. He's the super one. Wu Ting interrupted, which made Chu Weikai and Wei Renjie laugh. Wu Ting finished muttering and looked at Zhang Qiufan, Yao Ruiwei, and the others who were looking serious. She frowned and frowned. Sir Liu has met the devil in this match. Ha 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 ha, look, the hypocrite who made it to the top 4 by cheating is about to show his true colors. Yan Xiaoling punched the bed while reading the comments on the forum. So angry. She wanted to argue with the haters, but she didn't have the confidence to do so. She could only look at the screen and ask for the support of the guest's grandpa. Professor Yu Hong, can you give us an analysis of the probability of winning this match? Asked the host. Yu Hong smiled and answered, let's put it this way. Not counting his physical strength and speed, but his ability to perform several consecutive bursts, his mastery of force, and his simplified physical invulnerability moves, Lu Cheng is a real professional 7th pin fighter of the Dan stage. He could even be considered a strong professional 7th pin fighter. But if we take the previous aspects into account, he still lacks the foundation, and can barely be regarded as a weak professional 7th pin fighter. Besides, he has only been in the Dan stage for a few days, and it's said that he has only mastered withdraw for less than 2 months. In terms of experience and skills, he is far behind Zhang Zhutong. And Zhang Zhutong has completed 7 consecutive bursts and mastered furnace force, but he doesn't have the simplified physical invulnerability moves. So I think the odds are 7 to 3. Zhang Zhutong is 7 to Lu Cheng's 3. It's not impossible for him to win, and he has created miracles many times. Hearing the guest grandpa's analysis, Yan Xiaoling put on a long face and prayed silently. Yuanshi Tianzuan, Jade Emperor, Queen Mother Buddha, and God Amen. Let Lu Cheng defeat his opponent. #1 seed? Zhang Zhutong? I know this one. He's really good. Gu Shuang clapped her hands excitedly. Feeling 4 pairs of eyes on her, she suddenly realized something. She smiled guiltily and said, Your man is better. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and stared at Lu Cheng, who was sitting in the guest seat. She glanced at her phone, stood up suddenly, and walked to the other side of the aisle. Cuckoo, where are you going? Gu Shuang asked in surprise. Washroom, Yan Zhika answered simply. Why didn't you call me? Gu Shuang was used to going to the washroom with her girlfriends. You just went there with Sister Jingjing. Yan Zhika didn't turn her head. Haha, I almost forgot. Gu Shuang flipped her hair. The match was about to start, and the audience had finished their business. The new round had not started yet, so the washroom was deserted. In the past, there would be a long line in the women's washroom, but now it was quiet. This was exactly the environment Yan Zhika needed. She looked in the mirror, picked up her phone, and bit her lower lip with her white teeth. She plucked up her courage and said in a normal voice, Dear, do your best. She finally shouted out these words. Her pretty face was blushing and her eyes were shining. She was so shy. Dear Cheng. Dear, do your best. Lu Cheng didn't expect to hear this at this time, because he didn't have time to ask Coach Yen for it. His lips curled up, and a smile bloomed on his face. He listened to this sentence many times and carefully saved it. Your cheer came so suddenly that I didn't feel it. I just listened to it 38 times. Lu Cheng expressed his excitement and joy in a humorous way. Humph, do your best. Yan Zhika replied proudly. Yes, sir. Lu Cheng put down his phone with a big smile. He seized the last moment to adjust his mental and physical state. 5 minutes later, Yin Huaming, the chairman of the Martial Artist Association of Xing Province, stepped into the arena as the referee to show the importance of young fighters in the martial arts circle of Xing Province. Round 1, Zhang Zhutong vs. Lu Cheng. His voice was neither loud nor soft, but it spread far and wide, igniting the audience's cheers. Amidst the cheers and boos, Lu Cheng walked towards the ring along the path that was filled with light. Others may not believe it, but this is the first time I've fought in the semi-finals. Lu Cheng was the first to arrive at the stone steps leading to glory. He saw Zhang Zhutong walking up the stairs slowly and proudly, just like that night. He was wearing a green and red martial arts suit with wind patterns on it. He had a handsome figure and deep eyes. Talk time starts now. The referee Yin Huaming didn't waste any time. Zhang Zhutong smiled and said, Lu Cheng, have you been online recently? People everywhere are saying that you made it to the top 4 because of your unorthodox moves. Do you think Meng Jiefeng is not strong enough? Lu Cheng didn't answer directly, in case he fell into a trap and affected his mood and condition. His rhetorical question was quite sharp. Meng Jiefeng and Zhang Zhutong were both mainstays in the martial arts circle of Gaofen, but Meng Jiefeng was more of a police officer. If Zhang Zhutong didn't think Meng Jiefeng was strong enough and that Lu Cheng, who had defeated him, wasn't qualified to be in the top 4, then their relationship in the future would be very interesting. What was said during the talk time might not be false. Otherwise, who would be provoked? No, I'm just a little emotional. In this challenge tournament, strength is important, but so is luck. Zhang Zhutong said leisurely. In the last youth tournament, I was full of confidence. I thought I had the strength to make it to the top 4 even though I had just entered the Dan stage. Unfortunately, I met Captain Gao in advance and stopped in the top 8. His eyes suddenly became terrifyingly sharp. Let me see if you're qualified to be in the top 4. In an instant, his muscles bulged and his fighting spirit burst out. A slight wind blew around him. Chapter 272. In the live broadcast room of Xing Province TV station, the host seized the last chance to ask, Mr. Yu Hong, I think you've missed a very important point. You never mentioned Lu Cheng's physical talent. After so many days of fighting in the youth tournament, everyone is tired except Lu Cheng. I think he'll have an advantage in this aspect in the semi-finals. Why didn't you mention it when you analyzed the possibility of him winning against Zhang Zhutong? Yu Hong smiled and said, if it's just one match, Zhang Zhutong won't have a big problem in terms of physical strength. Maybe you don't know, but the Divine Fire Club bought a new ultra-low temperature cold treatment system last year. It stimulates the human body with extremely low temperatures between -110 and 150 degrees Celsius to help recover from fatigue and heal injuries. How do you explain the effect? It's expensive, but you get what you pay for. This system has been popularized in top professional competitions abroad. It's also useful for physical invulnerability mighty ones, but the temperature will be lower. Zhang Zhutong is not an arrogant person who has lost his mind. It is impossible that he didn't use it last night. With the help of acupuncture and elixirs, his current fatigue level is very low. It is not much worse than when he was at his peak. At most, it is 10 or 9. The host sighed with emotion. The advancement of science and technology has indeed added many variables to martial arts. No wonder Mr. Yu Hong thinks that Zhang Zhutong has more than a 70% chance of winning. This match is actually very interesting. According to Mr. Yu Hong, as long as Lu Cheng can build up his foundation, he will have a great chance to get the certificate of professional 7th pin in a year or even half a year. At that time, he will only be 20 years old, while Zhang Zhutong will become a 7th pin fighter at 22 years old. This can be seen as a natural replacement of the young fighters in our province. Let's wait and see whether the younger generation will really push the older generation away, or the older generation will successfully stop the younger generation and suppress the younger generation for a year. Listening to the commentator's analysis, some people were happy while others were sad. In the arena, Lu Cheng didn't feel wronged or angry in the face of Zhang Zhutong's words. After talking with Yan Zhike last night, he was prepared for this. He only replied calmly, I don't need to be judged by others. I hope you'll still have the courage and confidence to say what you just said in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. On the one hand, he showed his confidence in martial arts, which wouldn't be shaken by the results of one or two martial arts competitions. On the other hand, he was subtly comparing the growth of the two. I was an ordinary person without martial arts last year. In January, I was a strong amateur first pin. At the end of April, I was a professional 9th pin fighter. At the beginning of August, I reached Dan stage and automatically reached 8th pin. If there are no accidents, I'll get a 7th pin certificate by next April. In the year after next April, I have a chance of reaching 6th pin. What about you? With your current potential, will you be at the same level as me when the time comes? Or is there a gap? Do you still have the courage and confidence to say that you'll judge my qualifications? Zhang Zhutong was not exaggerating. He was merely rationally and objectively pointing out the situation they were in. However, the truth was the most hurtful. Even though Zhang Zhutong was a seasoned fighter who had fought in countless challenge tournaments and had tried countless times to provoke each other, he could not help but breathe heavily. His expression changed slightly, and his tone stiffened. Who can predict what will happen in the future? At least for now. I can suppress you and suppress your growth. Lu Qing smiled and shook his head. He deliberately didn't say anything and showed a calm attitude to further provoke him. After so many challenge tournaments, I've gradually gotten rid of the awkwardness and become a person who can make use of the conversation time. He lowered his eyes. The lake in his heart turned to ice, reflecting the thoughts that flashed through his mind. Zhang Zhutong's clenched fist not only hit Cotton, but also got stabbed in the back. He couldn't find a chance to fight back. His momentum was weakened for a moment. How old is this guy? How can he have such a good mentality? He was about to push his momentum up again to influence his opponent's mind and spirit when he saw the referee, Yin Huaming, raise his right arm and swing it down. Begin. The first semifinal of the 3rd Youth Fighter Championship of Xing Province began. Without any hesitation, Zhang Zhutong straightened his back and strode towards his opponent. His speed increased from slow to fast, as if a heavy tank had finally gained momentum. A gust of wind blew past him, making Lu Qing squint his eyes. Tribulation of wind and fire. Wind and fire steps. At the last step, Zhang Zhutong's body tightened, and he suddenly stepped forward. In the loud sound of the airflow exploding, he closed in on Lu Qing. His left hand was in front of his chest, and his right arm was like an iron rod. He contracted, expanded, and pierced right between Lu Qing's chest and abdomen. He gradually gathered his momentum, and gave me time to prepare for severe warning. How dare he attack me head-on? Lu Qing's heart skipped a beat. He felt that something was wrong. Lu Qing could take the risk, but Zhang Zhutong couldn't. Once he was hit by severe warning, even with his professional 7th pin Dan stage physique, he would stiffen up. Stiffening up meant a lot for an opponent with a similar strength level. It was almost certain that he would win. Lu Qing didn't compete with his opponent in body movement or flaming wind steps. Instead, he pushed his feet inward, bulged his thigh muscles, and twisted his back. He lowered his shoulder and threw a blast punch that tore through the wind to block his opponent's attack. Zhang Zhutong's wrist suddenly flicked when they were about to collide. His fist moved away like a white cloud in the wind, circling to Lu Qing's side. He opened his fingers and grabbed Lu Qing's forearm. Wind and fire tribulation. Wind blows clouds. So what if you have a simplified physical invulnerability move? I won't collide with you. I'll just grab your Achilles heel. Lu Qing was prepared for this. He raised his shoulder and exploded the force. His arm softened and turned into a long whip. He avoided the grab and twisted it in the opposite direction. Then he leaned forward and tightened his muscles, whipping at his opponent's wrist joint. Zhang Zhutong suddenly withdrew his chi and blood. He lowered his body and turned into a human body Big Dan. Then he lifted his left foot and stomped hard on the ground. Bam! He channeled all the explosive power of the Dan stage into the ring. As he stomped and flipped, the entire ring clearly shook a few times. Cracks started to spread rapidly from his feet to the surrounding green bricks. It was ferocious and thick, making one's scalp go numb just by looking at it. A stomp was like an earthquake. This was the power of a professional 7th pin Dan stage. Zhang Zhutong timed his stomp perfectly. It happened when Lu Qing's center of gravity was leaning forward. Lu Qing felt his feet undulate and he was about to fall. Not good. Lu Cheng adjusted his muscles and forced himself to regain his center of gravity. At this moment, Zhang Zhutong rebounded by stamping his feet and moved forward like a gust of wind. He completely bypassed Lu Cheng's defensive circle and arrived at Lu Cheng's side. His left arm, which had been in front of his chest, swung out like a big spear, aiming for Lu Cheng's throat. It was fast and fierce, like a prairie fire. Wind and fire tribulation. Fire with wind to kill with one move. No one expected Zhang Zhutong to not seek a protracted fight to show the power of the furnace force. Instead, he took the initiative to create an opportunity from the beginning and launched a series of killer moves. In this series of attacks, his experience, skills, and timing as a professional 7th pin in the Dan stage were fully displayed. At such a close distance and facing such a fire, even a force concentration was too late, let alone a dodge. If Lu Cheng's mind was affected during the conversation, and his momentum was suppressed, his judgment would be delayed for a split second, and he would lose on the spot. Fortunately, his heart was as cold as ice and he made a decision in a split second. He lowered his body and shrunk his head, narrowly avoiding the attack aimed at his throat in a half-sitting position. However, how could Zhang Zhutong's killing move be so simple? As soon as his left arm missed its target, he bulged his abdomen muscles and pulled his fascia, spine, and shoulders. He leaned his body to one side and dragged his arm to change the direction of his attack. Then he hammered downwards. This drag and punch fully demonstrated the smoothness and transparency of his force. Lu Cheng didn't have time to think. Relying on his experience and awareness, he suddenly leaned back and made the iron bridge that he was used to. Unlike the past, his right foot sunk into the bricks to maintain his balance. His left thigh tightened, and with a snap, he whipped his leg between his opponent's legs when the distance between them was extremely close. Zhang Zhutong didn't panic. He lowered his body halfway and grabbed Lu Cheng's thigh with his right hand. The joints and fascia of his left arm made a strange noise. With a short change, he exerted the second fold force and continued to punch downwards towards Lu Cheng's chest. Lu Cheng's right foot dug deeper into the bricks. He barely managed to raise his hands to block the punch. Bam! When he blocked the punch, his opponent's right hand grabbed his thigh. But all of a sudden, Zhang Zhutong felt that there was no feeling of flesh and blood. His opponent's muscles wriggled and combined perfectly with force concentration, borrowing his strength and integrating it with his qi, blood, force, and spirit into a single point. Borrowing? Qiu Lin's Wisdom King guards the temple? Just as the thought flashed through his mind, Zhang Zhutong sensed a burst of strength in his opponent's dantian. The muscles and skin on his thigh bulged and bounced off his right claw. This young man has a lot of ideas. Seeing this, the guest commentator Yu Hong couldn't help but praise him. He imitated Qiu Lin's Wisdom King guards the temple technique. Most professional 8th pin Dan stage fighters couldn't reach the level of Wisdom King guards, and most professional 7th pin Dan stage fighters couldn't either. Lu Cheng did a carp flip and straightened his leg to regain his stance. He blocked his opponent's left arm and turned his body sideways with the explosive momentum of Dan stage to hit him with his elbow. This was the result of his hard work in the past few days. Using Qiu Lin's Wisdom King guards the temple as a reference, he used the Wisdom King guards the temple technique as the core, and combined the borrowing force of 24 blizzard strikes with force concentration to push this move to the level of Dan stage. Come on, I'll show you the real howling blizzard. The more they fought, the fiercer and faster the blizzard became. Chapter 273. The scene of Zhang Zhutong stamping his feet like an earthquake stunned Qi Yunfei, Chao Lele, and the other spectators who rarely came into contact with martial arts. It also made Yanjika nervous. She unconsciously covered her mouth and held her breath for Zhang Zhutong's series of killer moves, and her boyfriend's dodging at the edge of danger. When Lu Cheng finally found an opportunity to turn the tables with the 24 blizzard strikes imitating the Wisdom King guards the temple, she breathed a sigh of relief. She could hear the thumping sound in her chest. No wonder he's a famous 7th pin mighty one. This is going to be a tough battle. Come on, Cheng. Coupled with the explosive force of the Dan stage, Lu Cheng's elbow hit the air with a sharp sound. Zhang Zhutong's hair stood on end and his spirit exploded. At this moment, The distance between them was very close. Zhang Zhutong resisted the subconscious thought of retreating and calmly made an accurate judgment. He lowered his back and quickly condensed the human body Big Dan in his lower abdomen. His arms swelled as the power gushed out. He lifted them up and put them in front of him. In all kinds of martial arts classics, there was a saying that a fist strike was like a tiger's, while an elbow strike was like a dragon's. The former was made up of small bones, while the latter was a solid whole. The difference in strength was self-evident. Facing Lu Cheng's Dan stage elbow strike, Zhang Zhutong didn't dare to block it with one hand, nor did he dare to face it head-on. He raised his left hand and pushed his right hand to the side. With the combined force of his two palms, he managed to block the elbow strike and push it away from him to avoid the continuous attacks of the throwing body punch. It was strange. With Zhang Zhutong's physique and the fact that he was stronger than Lu Cheng in the Dan stage, even if he had lost the initiative, they should have been evenly matched. However, Zhang Zhutong's body swayed and he took a step back, putting some distance between them. Once Lu Cheng's 24 blizzard strikes started, it was continuous. Especially when he was still using force concentration, the strength of his whole body could be integrated into one. He didn't need to exert strength from his feet, but only the bulging muscles of his upper body could produce a strike with all the strength of his whole body. This made his 24 blizzard strikes, in this state, could be like Zhou Jingquan's continuous fly-fall punch, continuous and whistling without pause. His left elbow had just been blocked. His muscles wriggled to borrow strength and combined it with his chi, blood, and spirit into a Big Dan. Boom. The Big Dan exploded and the volcano erupted. Lu Cheng took advantage of the rebound and turned to the right. He lifted his waist and his right arm swelled half a circle, turning into a terrifying iron whip. He took advantage of the momentum and swung it at the enemy behind him, aiming for his neck. The whip parted the air and stirred up a gust of wind on both sides. It stimulated Zhang Zhutong's skin and made his pores close. Bone-chilling double explosion. Zhang Zhutong didn't dare to slack off. He did a second force concentration in a row. The muscles on his right hand stood out. The blood vessels and veins on the back of his hand were visible. Pa. He exerted strength with his shoulders, swung his elbows and swung his forearms. Like a nunchaku, he struck Lu Cheng's single whip horizontally. Bang. The sound was deafening and the airflow was roaring. Lu Cheng's body swayed forward, but his chi and blood quickly flowed back, pulling part of Zhang Zhutong's force back to his dantian. He turned to the right again, diagonally facing the enemy. He bounced his waist and gave a fierce side kick. It was so fast that it was as if there was no gap between the moves. Brutal blizzard triple explosion. He had a clear understanding of the difference in strength between himself and the enemy. He knew that Zhang Zhutong wasn't Meng Jiefeng. If he fell into a passive position again, he would lose the opportunity to counterattack and be defeated by continuous attacks. If he wanted to win, he had to do the same. He couldn't give Zhang Zhutong a chance to catch his breath. He had to crush his enemy with the momentum of the mega avalanche. Zhang Zhutong first took a step back, then sat down firmly with his dan. He stopped swaying and swelled his thighs. He didn't show any sign of weakness. He lashed out a gust of wind and met Lu Cheng's side kick. Triple explosion versus triple explosion. Bam. Yin Huaming, the referee, felt a strong wind blowing in his face. He saw the two legs frozen in midair. Shards of shoes and trouser legs were drifting outward. After Lu Cheng's continuous borrowing of strength, the two of them were finally evenly matched. Lu Cheng lowered his waist and sat on the golden wand throne. He withdrew his right leg in a strange way. He borrowed strength to steady himself. The sweat oozing out of his pores didn't drip down but stuck to his original position. His dan gushed out. Lu Cheng's back muscles bulged and pushed up his clothes. He took a step forward, his thick left arm hanging down. His fists slanted upward toward his opponent's abdomen. This process was unbelievably fast. It was like a continuous snowstorm, giving Zhang Zhutong no chance to dodge at all. Heavy snow collapse, quadruple explosion. Lu Cheng struck 4 times in a row with explosive power, each strike stronger than the one before. Lu Cheng's supporters felt their blood boil and their enthusiasm was boiling. They shouted "good" noisily. After withdrawing his leg, Zhang Zhutong took another step back. as if he was looking for something. But in the face of Lu Cheng's relentless attacks, he had no choice but to concentrate his Dan again. He gritted his teeth and launched the same quadruple explosion, and the same seabed collapse with his left fist. Boom! It was as if a bomb had been set off. Waves of wind spread in all directions. Even the debris from the broken bricks was blown away. This kind of fight and collision had exceeded the limits of the human body. After the collision, Lu Cheng borrowed strength again, and condensed his human body Big Dan. He was going to launch the mighty snow collapse. At this moment, Zhang Zhutong, who had been at a disadvantage because of his continuous borrowing of force, bounced back and floated away with his body's momentum. From the first time Lu Cheng used 24 blizzard strikes, which was an imitation of the Wisdom King guards the temple technique, with his rich combat experience and understanding of the enemy's fighting style. He was keenly aware that if he didn't escape in time, he would be caught in the brutal blizzard, and fall into an extremely passive situation. But at that distance he could hit Lu Cheng with a raise of his hand. If he blindly dodged or retreated, he would only be digging his own grave and admitting defeat. Therefore he made the right decision to take the hit head-on. He blocked 4 attacks in a row and retreated a small step after each one, quietly increasing the distance between them. By now, this distance was enough for him to accomplish a lot of things. Seeing that Zhang Zhutong was trying to dodge, Lu Cheng's Dan Qi exploded and pounced forward, instantly wiping out the space between them. While he was swinging his fist at Zhang Zhutong used the wind and fire steps. With the wind blowing and clouds moving technique, Zhang Zhutong bounced his back and tapped his toes on the ground. His body was as light as a catkin and strangely floated to the side. His timing was perfect. Not only did he avoid the punch, but he also completely got rid of the suppression of 24 blizzard strikes. Seeing this, Yenjika sighed, her voice full of regret. Her expectation had been accumulating bit by bit. She had almost seen the dawn of victory. However, this was a professional 7th pin in the Dan stage, the top seed of this competition. He lived up to his reputation. After missing the 5 consecutive blows, Lu Cheng didn't continue blindly. It was good to not give Zhang Zhutong a chance to turn around with the brutal blizzard. But if he clung to Zhang Zhutong, he would be digging his own grave. In actual combat, he had to constantly adjust his strategy according to the situation. It's not that simple. As this thought flashed through his mind, Zhang Zhutong had already dodged to the side. His eyes were covered with a faint layer of red. He swung his right arm back and punched quickly. Lu Cheng did not mix the Thunder Roar Zen into the 24 blizzard strikes in order to make the attacks more compact. But this time he was able to free up his hands. He visualized a thundercloud in his mind, tightened the muscles of his arms and hammered back to block the attack. No matter what kind of attack his opponent made, he would counter with a Thunder Roar Zen. At his current level, his muscles and tendons were much tighter than before. Once his strength exploded, the impact produced could be said to be terrifying. Bam! Zhang Zhutong jumped and retracted his arm. Enduring the rolling qi and blood, he moved first. Lu Cheng felt the tendons and veins in his forearm burning, which was quite uncomfortable. Furnace force. Zhang Zhutong circled to Lu Cheng's side. With bloodshot eyes, he punched Lu Cheng's spine. Lu Cheng wasn't afraid. He leaned to one side and tightened his right arm muscles to block the punch like a whip. Come on. Let's see if you can take more Thunder Roar Zen, or I can take more furnace force. Bang, 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 bang. Zhang Zhutong resumed his usual fighting style. He kept circling Lu Cheng and attacking him with one furnace force after another. Every time Lu Cheng tried to use force concentration, Zhang Zhutong sensed it in time and took the initiative to retreat, dodging the attack with the momentum of wind-blowing clouds. Lu Cheng had no choice but to fight back with Thunder Roar Zen and Frost Force. The burning heat and discomfort accumulated in his body were increasing. Yenjika was worried again because this was Zhang Zhutong's field of expertise. If this continued, he could completely detonate the furnace force in Lu Cheng's body and win easily. She wondered if Cheng's trick would work. Zhang Zhutong felt it was time for him to fight to his heart's content. He first neutralized the shock with the internal training method, and then found another opportunity to launch the last furnace force to ignite the accumulated force in Lu Cheng's body. At this moment, Lu Qing visualized the scene of the falling red sun crashing into the frozen river. Similarly, he wasn't going to use severe warning. He was going to imitate it and create a collision between the supernatural abilities of ice and fire to disperse the remaining force in his body. Boom! The cold current and the fire current collided, and a storm swept out, passing through many meridians and rushing to Lu Cheng's hand. During this process, bit by bit, the accumulated furnace energy was absorbed into the storm, becoming a part of it. Bam! Their fists collided. Zhang Zhutong was surprised to feel waves of coldness and heat, but he also felt the familiar feeling of a furnace. At the same time, his pupils shrank when he found that his opponent didn't show any signs of being detonated. Lu Cheng can neutralize the effect of the furnace force. He can even use 24 blizzard strikes to launch force concentration and suppress me continuously. And his physical strength is limitless. How can I fight like this? While Zhang Zhutong was shaken, Lu Qing didn't feel good either. His meridians felt like they were being cut by knives and his spirit began to feel tired. But he pretended to be fine. His willpower surged and he stretched his body shouting, "Come on! Come on if you can!" His imposing manner and voice shook Zhang Zhutong's mind. Affected, Zhang Zhutong's reaction was a beat slower. Lu Qing condensed his Dan again, raised his right hand, and swung down his arm like the thunder god. There was no time to dodge, so he used force concentration again and swelled his arm to block. Bam! Zhang Zhutong's body shook as if he had been hit by a bomb. Lu Qing took advantage of the momentum and sat steadily on the golden Luan throne, launching a double explosion. He stepped forward, his left hand like an iron hammer, and struck fiercely. Zhang Zhutong had no choice but to launch another double explosion. He threw a punch forward to meet the attack head-on. Triple explosion, quadruple explosion. Lu Qing gritted his teeth and endured the mental exhaustion, the throbbing pain in his head, and the discomfort in his body. He attacked crazily with the momentum of brutal blizzard. Zhang Zhutong's momentum was suppressed, but his combat experience was still there. He launched a quadruple explosion to hold on. At this point, both of them were exhausted. But Zhang Zhutong didn't know that Lu Qing was in the same situation. In his eyes, Lu Cheng's hair and beard were all standing up. He looked majestic and didn't see the slightest sign of fatigue. He was shaken. He took the opportunity to retreat, but Lu Qing caught up with him in big strides. Sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right, they kept fighting around the edge of the arena. The fight was so intense that Yen Zhika and the others forgot to breathe. 2 minutes later, Zhang Zhutong felt exhausted and slowed down his steps. Lu Qing finally caught up with him. Lu Qing was mentally exhausted, but his physical strength was good. After all, he was replenished by the Jindan. He glared at Zhang Zhutong and released his momentum. Zhang Zhutong was stunned for a moment, as if he was facing an invincible enemy. While he was stunned, Lu Qing kicked up the pebbles and threw them at Zhang Zhutong's face. He gritted his teeth and wriggled his muscles, fascia, and organs to visualize the scene of the red sun breaking the ice. Zhang Zhutong subconsciously reached out his hand to block the stone that was flying at him. Then he was hit by a punch that followed closely behind. He had to block. He had to block. Severe warning. Bam. After a short noise, Zhang Zhutong felt like he was back in the cryotherapy room last night. His mind was frozen bit by bit. Lu Cheng's mind was in chaos, but he instinctively leaned to the side and bumped his stiff opponent out of the arena. Zhang Zhutong fell outside the arena. Yin Huoming's expression changed slightly. He raised his right hand and shouted, "Lu Qing wins." Zhang Zhutong, the number 1 seed of the youth tournament, lost. Lu Qing was on the verge of collapse, but there was still some qi in his body. When he heard the referee's announcement, all his emotions and pressure broke out. He straightened his body and roared to the sky. "I won." At the end of the roar, he bent down and put his hands on his knees, gasping for breath. The audience saw his fatigue and knew that even Superman had his limits. This was a hard-fought victory. Chapter 274. When they saw Zhang Zhutong get knocked off the arena by Lu Qing and heard the referee announce the result, the whole audience went silent. No one cheered or shouted. It was not that they didn't want to, but the tension of the previous battle had made them tense and tormented. It was as if they had also experienced such a fierce and difficult battle. When the result was out, no matter who they supported, the first thing they felt was relief. Then they felt a wave of exhaustion wash over them, both physically and mentally. Until Lu Cheng stood up straight, raised his hands, and roared to the sky. Their passion was suddenly ignited. Their tears suddenly boiled over. Lu Cheng! Lu Cheng! He won! He won! He won! All kinds of cheers echoed in the martial arts arena, converging into a wave that could almost blow off the roof. However, they soon quieted down again because Lu Cheng, who was in the ring, had his hands on his knees and was panting heavily. On the big screen, his sweat dripped down and hit the surface of the broken bricks, splashing into countless tiny dots. His eyes lost their depth and spirit, like a blind man who could only see darkness. He can get tired? He can get tired? Even the most abnormal physical strength has a limit? Thoughts flashed through the hearts of the audience. Suddenly, they felt that this young martial artist who had won a bitter battle was not Superman. He was still a living, normal person like everyone else. He was no longer so distant and distant. He was so close that they felt like they could reach out and touch him. And in the battle just now, he had really given it his all and squeezed out all his marrow in order to achieve victory. Unknowingly, the audience's good impression of him increased. Yinjika covered her mouth. She was exhausted, but she was overwhelmed with emotions. Looking at Lu Cheng, who had finally reached his limit in the arena, recalling his roar of "come on!" and his overwhelming momentum that completely suppressed Zhang Zhutong, she felt sorry for him, pity for him, pride, excitement, and joy. She wanted to give her boyfriend a big hug regardless of anything else. Lying on the ground beside the arena, Zhang Zhutong gradually regained his consciousness. He saw the transparent glass ceiling and the rising moon through the light pollution. It was so peaceful that he felt he was not in the martial arts stadium, but in the white mist of the cryotherapy system. Zhang Zhutong felt that he was not in the martial arts stadium at all. Lost. After waiting for 3 years and training bitterly for 3 years, he lost just like that? Although victory and defeat were common in a battle, 3 years later, I would be 26 years old. Unless the rules were changed, it would be impossible for me to enter the ring of the youth tournament and win the championship. Even if the age limit was relaxed, how strong could Lu Cheng be in 3 years' time? Just the thought of it was frightening. It's never going to happen. I'll never win the youth tournament. Some things once missed could not be regained. Zhang Zhutong's body was weak and his muscles were sore. He wanted to lie there quietly, unwilling to face the reality of failure. But in this silence, he heard the sound of labored breathing. Tilting his head, he saw Lu Cheng. He looked up at Lu Cheng and saw his eyes that were dim and full of fatigue. Was he tired? His physical strength was not limitless. In an instant, a strong sense of regret flooded Zhang Zhutong's mind, gnawing at his soul. If I had known that he would be tired and that this was his limit, I wouldn't have panicked. My momentum was suppressed, my spirit was affected, and my weakness was exposed. If I had continued to fight like before, I would have won. Zhang Zhutong clenched his teeth when he saw Lu Cheng's limit. He felt that he could win if he did it 5 or 10 more times. But the match was over, and time could not be turned back. A loss was a loss. The winner enjoyed the glory, and the loser had no excuses. He smiled bitterly, got up, and patted the dust off his body. He walked to the lounge alone, bearing the regret and licking his wounds. This was martial arts, and this was life. He had just taken 2 steps when the audience came back to their senses. Many people shouted, "Lu Cheng! Lu Cheng!" Immediately after, a sharp and tender female voice pierced through the air. "Super! Star! Super! Star! Lu Cheng super rank!" Hearing Wu Ting scream and seeing her jumping up and down, Wei Renjia smiled with mixed feelings. He turned to Sun Yixing and Chu Weikai. Chu Weikai and Sun Yixing said nothing, but gave him a thumbs up. Yes, Lu Cheng could be the top young martial artist in the province. Yes, he was the #1 young martial artist in the province. He won. He won. Lu Jisheng could not believe his son had won until now. He jumped up and shouted like a young man, forgetting the reserved manner of an intellectual. He won. He won. Qi Feng pulled him and looked at the arena with concern. She asked nervously, "Is Chung okay?" When he was in junior high school, a classmate suddenly died while being punished to run laps. "He's fine. Look, he's coming back to life. He's greeting everyone." Lu Jisheng's eyes were fixed on the arena and the big screen. He saw Lu Cheng's eyes recover a little. Then he walked around the edge of the arena and raised his hands to applaud the audience. That's good, that's good." Qi Feng breathed a sigh of relief and forgot her age. She followed the excited audience around her and started to cheer. The martial arts competition was so exciting and thrilling. This was her intuitive feeling. But she could no longer say that for safety, she did not want to walk the road of martial arts. "Son, you are our pride." Looking at her cousin who was walking around the field in a victorious manner, and thinking of his tired look, Qi Yunfei suddenly clearly felt that brother Lu Cheng was hiding his hard work, sacrifice and tolerance for hardships when he was not noisy, flamboyant, or showing off. Compared to those boastful guys, his uncontrollable tiredness just now was more manly. Recalling the punches and kicks that had left a deep impression on her, the powerful roar, the feeling of strength from the bulging muscles, and the tyrannical strength of the defeated enemy that could shake the arena with a stomp of his feet, Qi Yunfei's face turned red. She murmured with a smile, "I've really become a brother complex." She glanced around shyly, afraid that others would notice her emotions. However, Chen Xiaoxiao, Ma Shi, Qiu Hailin, Chao Lele, and the others all had different reactions. They were all excited and had different thoughts. No one was paying attention to her. In the living room of the Lu family, Lu Yanwei loosened his clenched fists because of the stalemate. Joy surged up and gushed out. But soon more emotions appeared in his mind. He stared at the TV with mixed feelings, looking at the tired Lu Cheng who walked around the arena to greet him. At this time, he felt that he could not remember what Lu Cheng looked like in the past 10 years. He had really changed so much that even the relatives who often contacted him felt an indescribable strangeness. "I don't dare to recognize him. I really want to live like him, no half of him, or even 1/10 of him." Lu Debong held the cigarette in his hand and forgot to light it. He muttered to himself blankly, he won? He beat the number 1 seed? Dozens of seconds later, he suddenly woke up with a start. He felt around but couldn't find anything, so he roared with full strength, "Hey! Jiqiang, give me my phone. I'll call them back one by one." Lu Jiqiang was shocked by the roar. He looked at his wife who was looking at him fiercely and whispered, "It's okay to win. Why are you so excited?" In the high school group chat, no one spoke for several minutes. Lu Cheng's deskmate, Wang Jia, appeared and said, "I want Feng Cheng to be my idol." Chao Lele chimed in, "He's already my idol." Tao Xiaofei and Yao Ming smiled. "Brother Lu has been my idol for a long time. You're so outdated." There weren't many students who came out to express their feelings. At first, the others were just there to join in the fun and were excited because of this matter. However, after witnessing a student that they weren't familiar with, or even unfamiliar with truly obtaining great glory and success, they felt rather complicated, and didn't want to speak for a while. When there was comparison, there would be hurt. In the Xing province TV broadcast room, the host was silent for a while and then forced a smile. "Mr. Yu Hong, what do you think of the result of this competition?" Yu Hong smiled and sighed. "Lu Cheng is really good at creating miracles. In 1 or 2 months, if Lu Cheng and Zhang Zhutong fought 10 more times, maybe he could only win 1 or 2. But he did it at the most critical moment, and on the most critical occasion. 1 win was worth 10 wins. No one could or dared to say that he was weaker than Zhang Zhutong." After hearing the guest grandpa's comments and seeing that Lu Cheng had regained his mobility, Yin Shaoling let go of her worries. Her suppressed emotions for the past 2 days finally broke out. She posted several posts in the forum. Come on. You bunch of haters. Who are you accusing of using underhanded means to enter the top 4? Who would kneel before Zhang Zhutong or Han Jifei? Come on. Let's hurt each other. Our Lu Cheng not only wants to enter the top 4, but also the finals. He wants to step on the top seed. It's not him who made it to the top 4 by using tricks. It's the others who want to avoid him. Come on. F*** CK your tricks. F***ck your hypocrites. F***ck your haters. After posting, Yan Xiaoling couldn't help but pant. She felt tired and refreshed at the same time. Seeing this, the whole forum was silent. The haters didn't dare to show up, and the others seemed to have forgotten to reply. After a while, Brahman said weakly, "You scared me to death. I wanted to come out and scold those trolls, but when I saw your post, I was scared back. Son, I didn't expect you to be such a person. I didn't expect you to be a swearing little Changya." Unparalleled Dragon King also replied weakly. Yan Xiaoling glanced at the post, covered her face and replied, Too excited. I'll delete it. I don't want to leave a black history." "No need. Don't you have a black history? I've already taken a screenshot. I'll keep it and pass it on to my children and grandchildren." Okamoto's fan laughed. "Yet don't delete it. I suddenly feel that Yan Xiaoling is cuter when she swears." Unparalleled Dragon King said with a hilarious joke. "Black will eventually be white. Son, I have faith in you." Brahman encouraged her by patting her shoulder. Bull Demon King, a lip-reading expert, also appeared. "Moderator, I want to give you a nickname." "What nickname? I don't want it if it's not nice." Yan Xiaoling gave up and almost cried. "I used to be such a cute child. Once I entered the forum, I became a passerby with no moral integrity." Bull Demon King snickered. In ancient times, the great sages with great achievements were respectfully called Z. Since you've lost your moral integrity, I've decided to call you Chao Z. Lu Cheng recovered from his blurred thoughts and breathing difficulties. He bowed to the stands where Yan Zheka and his parents were. Enduring the throbbing pain in his head and the tiredness in his mind, he slowly walked to the side of the field and took back his phone from the match supervisor. Amidst the deafening cheers and applause, he stepped into the exclusive resting room step by step. He didn't go to sleep immediately to recover his energy, because in this state, he couldn't conceal his spirit and qi and meditate. In other words, he couldn't enter a deep sleep. If that was the case, an hour and a half of rest wouldn't be enough to recover his fatigue. Instead, he would feel even more tired. Therefore, he had to rest for a while and let his tiredness dissipate naturally. Then he would use meditation to sleep. Sitting on the sofa, although his muscles had been recovered by the Jindan, he didn't want to move a finger, let alone take a hot bath. Of course, on the other hand, he had a strong will. He picked up his phone with difficulty, logged into QQ, and sent a message to Yenjika. "I'm so tired." Yenjika had been holding her phone and didn't dare to send a message for fear of affecting Lu Cheng's recovery. Seeing the message, she was startled and sent a knock on the head emoji. "Why aren't you sleeping? Hurry up and go to sleep." There was only an hour and a half left until the end of the second semi-final. Lu Cheng described his current situation of not being able to enter a deep sleep and said with a smirk, "It's a pity that I have to prepare for the second semi-final. Otherwise, I could go back to the hotel and share the joy of victory with you and enjoy your head massage." "Do you have a headache now?" Yenjika asked with concern. "Yes. My head is throbbing and my temples are swollen." Lu Cheng didn't hide his condition. Although it was said that men had to appear strong and not be defeated, at the appropriate time, in front of the girl they loved, revealing their true self could instead evoke the radiance of motherhood and make her feel that she was needed. She would feel that there was no pretense between the two of them, and that she was the most special one. Yenjika looked around and found that all the cameras were pointing at the ring, at Han Jifei and Lu Xuanjin, who were walking towards the ring respectively. "So," she replied without any expression, "how about I massage your temples, so that you can recover quickly and go to sleep?" She knew that there was a physiotherapist on standby in the exclusive lounge, but she just couldn't control the impulse in her heart. "Okay. I'll pick you up at the door." Lu Cheng didn't think about the physiotherapist at all. He sat up from the sofa with the willpower of a dying man. "Okay." Yenjika put away her phone and stood up. She walked along the aisle to the bathroom and planned to go around. "Cuckoo, where are you going?" Gu Shuang was still immersed in the mood of damn, 'cause man defeated Zhang Zhutong. But she was awakened by her best friend's unusual movement. Yenjika's eyes were shining like stars. She blushed and said, "Lounge. Lounge? Let's go together." A what lounge? Gu Shuang recalled and blinked her eyes. Xing Jingjing pulled her and whispered, "Don't ask." Oh. Gu Shuang dragged her voice and understood what lounge it was. She smiled ambiguously. Aren't you afraid of affecting his recovery? That's right. He's so tired. How can he recover in 1.5 hours? Maybe the encouragement of love is more effective. Yenjika spat and didn't dare to answer. She walked quickly to the edge of the aisle. She carefully avoided the possible camera positions. When the whole audience was focused on the ring, she flashed into the lounge with the door half open. She saw Lu Cheng waiting there, and saw the tiredness that made her heart ache. I don't know why, but when I see you, I suddenly don't feel tired anymore. Lu Cheng's heart was filled with warmth and joy. He smiled and said, Bulsh *T. Yenjika glanced at him. Go back to your room and rest. Lu Cheng held her hand and ignored the eyes of passers-by like Fong Siki. They went straight back to their exclusive lounge. As soon as they entered and closed the door, he hugged the girl tightly and kissed her fragrance. Then, the two of them kissed with gentle passion and kissed deeply. After a few minutes, Yenjika pushed Lu Cheng away and gave him a charming look. You're so tired, but you still want to do bad things. You didn't even take a shower. You stink. After a few words, she asked with concern, Are you feeling better? With the nourishment of love, of course I'm feeling better. I should be able to conceal spirit and chi. Lu Cheng snickered. I'll take a shower first. No need. Lie down. Anyway, we have to compete later and sweat. Yenjika pulled him to the spacious sofa and let him lie down. She sat beside him and rubbed his temples. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. I'm afraid that my sweat will stink you. Lu Cheng put his phone aside and answered with a smile. Humph. It's good that you know. I'll sacrifice myself. Yenjika especially learned some physiotherapy massage skills this time. She used her hands to relieve the swelling pain in Lu Cheng's head. The smell of her boyfriend's sweat drifted into her nose. She didn't feel disgusted at all. She even liked it a little. She felt that it was very manly. While massaging, she listened to Lu Cheng's physical condition and found that he fell into a deep sleep within a minute. Yenjika freed one hand and took her boyfriend's phone. She unlocked it with her fingerprint and changed the mode to silent. Then she took out her own phone and did the same thing. I can't let Cheng wake up. The girl smiled lightly and was proud of her carefulness and cautiousness. She didn't stop massaging. While massaging, she saw that her own phone was flashing with the name on the screen. Empress Dowager. Empress Dowager? Yenjika was shocked. She chose to answer the call and whispered in her ear, Mom. Ji Mingyu chuckled. Is it very quiet? In Lu Cheng's lounge? How did you know? Yenjika was stunned. She felt that Empress Dowager was so powerful that she could guess it. I'm watching the competition with your dad. Ji Mingyu answered leisurely. I paid attention to the lounge door and saw my silly daughter. Why are you here? Why didn't you say anything? Yenjika kept her voice low. Dad didn't see it, right? Empress Dowager is so awesome. Don't worry. He's always so slow. Ji Mingyu curled her lips. In the quiet and empty road outside the stadium, she laughed and said, Ko, you're really like me. You have a good eye for men. Not bad. When the two of them started dating, Lu Cheng was just an amateur martial artist who seemed to have a bright future. Mom, why did you suddenly mention this? Yenjika was very shy. I've never objected to your relationship with Lu Cheng, and I also believe that you have good taste. Once he has the ability to be with you, I won't stand in your way. However, when it comes to marriage, there are too many areas where you need to break in. There are too many conflicts of ideas and personalities. Just like shoes, only you know whether they fit. Your father is a doctor, but he and I have a good life. Ji Mingyu said with emotion. I just want you to slow down and see clearly whether you can entrust your life to each other and grow old together. Don't rush to ignite your passion. Mom, I understand. Yenjika took a breath and answered. After hanging up the phone, she reached out and rubbed her boyfriend's temples again. Looking at Lu Cheng's face, which was not handsome but she liked, smelling the sweat on his body, and recalling the scenes between them, Yenjika faintly thought to herself, If I don't have Cheng by my side in the future, how empty and sad my heart will be. Just thinking about it makes me feel like I can't breathe. Lu Xuanjin's supernatural ability didn't have a fundamental breakthrough. Although it still caused a lot of trouble for Han Zhifei, it couldn't help him cross the level gap. After a few minutes of fighting, he was defeated. Seeing that Han Zhifei was just panting and not very tired, Lu Cheng's supporters suddenly quieted down and felt inexplicably sad. In the next 1.5 hours, the highlights of the youth tournament before the two finalists were introduced. The highlights were reviewed and mixed with singing and dancing performances. Seeing Lu Cheng break through obstacles and defeat one strong opponent after another, which was much more difficult than others, the audience became more silent and more emotional. Zhang Zhutong watched as Han Zhifei returned. Since he was going to use acupuncture and elixirs to relax, he resisted the urge to invite Han Zhifei to undergo ultra-low temperature cold therapy. It was only a dozen minutes' drive from here to the Xinhua Club. The ultra-low temperature cold treatment could only stimulate a short time, so there was more than enough time. But wouldn't it mean that he and Han Zhifei were working together to defeat Lu Cheng? Zhang Zhutong's pride stopped him from speaking. After an hour and 20 minutes, Yenjika played the role of an alarm clock and woke Lu Cheng up. How do you feel? She blinked and asked with concern. Lu Cheng shook his neck and answered with a smile. I've recovered half of my spirit. My physical strength is fine, but my tendons and muscles are a little swollen and uncomfortable because of the furnace force. The furnace force was different from the cold force. It was more corrosive and gradually accumulated. Even if it was dispelled, it still hurt Lu Cheng to some extent. Well, go and change your clothes. Yenjika didn't say much. Lu Cheng changed into a new martial arts suit and shoes, washed his face with cold water, and showed that he was in high spirits again. He smiled and said, "Will you go out later? Or just watch from here?" "Just watch from here." Yenjika smiled and her eyes rippled. "Wait for you to come back." "Okay." Lu Cheng chuckled. "Don't you want to cheer for my dear?" "Rogue." Yenjika spat and blushed. Then she hummed. Turn around, turn around." Okay. Lu Cheng turned to the door with his back to her. Yenjika took a step forward, put her arms around his waist, and buried her face in his neck. She whispered in a low voice, Dear, cheer for me. No matter what the result is, I'm proud of you." In the stadium outside, the broadcast began to introduce the matches of the final. As usual, the winner went out first. The final of the 3rd Young Warrior Championship of Xing Province begins. Let's welcome the first contestant, number 18 Lu Cheng. He defeated the number 9, number 5, number 6, and number 1 seeds and finally stood in the ring of the final. The audience was more emotional. They kept silent as if they were thinking about something. Lu Cheng walked out of the lounge and walked along the path under the spotlight to the stone stairs. At this moment, he suddenly heard a shout. "Champion!" The audience in the stadium was excited. One voice after another echoed around. "Champion! Champion! Champion!" Chapter 275. Champion! 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 Their voices were messy at first, then orderly, converging into a torrent, roaring and rolling in every corner of the stadium. After witnessing Lu Cheng's hard battle to become the top seed, and recalling his journey of defeating strong opponents, most of the audience suddenly felt that he was the champion of this youth tournament. No matter what the final result would be, he was the real champion. The champion in everyone's heart. Under such a schedule, the final depended on luck and drawing lots, while the previous challenges reflected the glory of martial arts. Champion! 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 Hearing such shouts and feeling such recognition, Lu Cheng, who was originally in a relaxed and happy mood, suddenly had mixed feelings and his blood was boiling. What more could he ask for in this youth tournament? He slowed down his pace, raised his hands, and saluted to the audience one by one. At this moment, I am the king of this competition in this stadium. The audience was quiet for a moment, then burst into more enthusiastic shouts. Lu Cheng! Champion! Their shouts were like questions and answers, making Yenjika, who was in the lounge, feel immersed in the scene, her eyes shining brightly. At this time, the camera shot around the stands, recorded several beauties, and returned to Lucheng. The girl remembered something, took out her phone, and sent a message to her boyfriend. Surrounded by the sound waves and illuminated by the radiance, Lucheng indulged his hot blood and looked at the arena that symbolized the champion. At this point, it would be too self-deceiving to say that he didn't desire the highest glory. Even if he was weaker than Han Jifei, even if he had a hard fight with Zhang Zhutong, even if he had consumed more energy than he did against Lu Xuanjin, he still had a chance. I didn't come here to admit defeat. To be honest, this final was very important for Han Jifei, who was in the top 4 last year, and was now 25 years old. Once he missed it, there would be no more chances. And as the second seed, he also carried too much hope of winning the championship, so naturally he had to bear a lot of pressure. But now he really had no pressure at all. His goal had been achieved. His ranking was better than expected, and his prize money was also more than expected. Moreover, he had won the audience's recognition and become the uncrowned king of this competition. Whether he won or lost the final, he didn't need to consider anything else but the desire to win in his heart. Victory or defeat was up to him. There was no pressure in his heart. While facing Zhangzhu, Lucheng, whose goal was to get into the top 4, was also close to this feeling. However, he still had the burden of proving that he didn't need to use any tricks. In fact, for him, this was not a big deal. Even if he lost, he could just stop browsing Weibo or forums and not talk about it with his friends. He could just quietly read novels, play games, and watch TV series and programs for a week. When the heat died down, he could pick himself up again and clear his name with victory after victory. However, he knew that Yan Zheke would feel guilty and hurt because of this. For the sake of his beloved girl, he calmly shouldered the pressure. Now all his burdens had been removed. He was purely focused on the competition and martial arts. As his footsteps became more relaxed, bits and pieces of information about Han Jifei flashed through his mind. Male, 25 years old. 3 years ago, he was a senior professional 8th pin. 2 years ago, he got the certificate of professional 7th pin. He was one of the vice leaders of Jianxian Hall. He was born on the streets and had mingled in the underworld. He was lucky enough to follow a good boss and learn a lot of skills. After getting a professional certificate, he gradually cleaned up and joined the Virtuous Hall, where he mastered the virtual seal fist. It was said that he was able to successfully wash his hands of the underworld and leave his original gang because the boss behind the Virtuous Hall was one of the big shots in the underworld of Xing province. He was quite mysterious and only had a nickname, Master Ba. The feature of Virtual Punch was that once mastered, there was no need for force concentration. Once it was activated, it could make the body empty as if it didn't exist. The force of this skill was also quite extraordinary. It was known as hard and soft at will. It could hurt people without hitting, and hit a mountain through a cow. Yes, hit a mountain through a cow. Before the cow was startled, the mountain had already collapsed. Han Jifei still had a long way to go before reaching the highest level of Virtual Punch, but he could be counted as a small success. He was good at changing the force between hard and soft, and good at attacking the opponent's tendons and bones in a head-on fight. He was the nemesis of many thwart training kung fu. Although his physical strength had broken through the human body's limit, he was not as good as Zhang Zhutong. The best he could do was to complete 6 consecutive bursts. The more Lucheng thought about it, the more he felt that Han Jifei was not easy to deal with. He was not much weaker than Zhang Zhutong. It was like the difference between 190. For Lucheng, it was more likely that he would lose than win. Not to mention that he had just fought a tough battle with the number 1 seed. His tendons and muscles were swollen and painful, which affected his strength. Han Jifei's opponent, Lu Xuanjin, was relatively weak. But it was not impossible. Last night, Han Jifei's opponent was the number 3 seed, Qiu Shan. He fought very hard. He won with great difficulty. He might even have injuries on his body. Even if he wasn't, even if Jianxian Hall had a good method to eliminate fatigue and restore physical strength, after such a high-intensity battle, it was impossible for him to restore his physical strength to its peak in just 1.5 hours. He might not even have the original 8 cooldowns. What a pity! Lu Qing took the time to sleep deeply and didn't pay attention to Han Jifei's performance against Lu Xuanjin. He didn't pay attention to whether there were any hidden injuries or hidden dangers. While thinking, Lu Qing came to the edge of the ring. He took out his phone and was about to hand it to the match supervisor. At this moment, he habitually turned on the screen and saw a message from his girlfriend. Han Jifei has a small injury on his left rib. When he punches with his left hand, his strength will be slow. I didn't forget to watch the match just now. I even remembered to turn off the sound. Quick, praise me. Lu Cheng's mind flashed back to last night when Han Jifei used force concentration and void punch to block Qiu Shan's sky-piercing finger. At that time he didn't seem to have any abnormalities. Who would have thought that he would be injured where he was hit? The corners of his mouth curled up as he replied under everyone's watchful eyes. Praise Coach Yan. You are so witty, cautious, beautiful and wise. Hey, look at my Lu Cheng's doting smile. He really has a girlfriend. Eternal nightfall. Yin Xiaoling keenly sensed it. Brahmin jumped out and poked her weak spot. Unfortunately, you don't have boobs to beat. Don't say that. A is also a boob. Okamoto's fan said. Yin Xiaoling was furious. Nonsense. Compared to my height and body shape, I have a lot of boobs. Yeah, the height and body shape of a primary school student. Lingling is 1.5 meters. Unparalleled Dragon King also joined in. Hey, I'm so pissed off. I'm 1.52 meters tall. How can you erase these 2 centimeters? You don't know how important they are. Yin Xiaoling didn't know whether she was defending herself or making fun of herself. For them, seeing Lu Qing enter the finals, their wish had been fulfilled. They were quite relaxed and leisurely. Winning or losing was not a big deal. In the lounge, Yin Zheka tapped on the keyboard and replied with an emoji of pompous orange. Then she saw Lu Qing hand his phone to the competition supervisor and walk up the stone steps to the arena step by step. He stood under the spotlight. At this time, the broadcast began to introduce the other side of the finals. Let's welcome the second player, the second seed Han Jifei. He has defeated many strong opponents along the way, including the 3rd seed and the 9th seed. Now he will face the biggest dark horse of this competition. Before the broadcast ended, the surrounding stands burst into cheers, shouting the name Han Jifei. As a native of Gaofun and participating in the preliminaries with Jianxian Hall, to reach a higher level, Han Jifei was well known and naturally had a lot of support in this half of the home ground. He walked along the road, climbed the stone steps, and stood opposite to Lu Cheng. The two didn't speak. They saw the referee raise his right hand, and the broadcast shouted, "The final of the 3rd Young Warrior Championship competition of Xing Province officially begins." The last 4 words were hoarse and ignited the enthusiasm of the audience. The sound of the trumpets was louder and louder. The referee waved his hand and announced, "Talk time starts now." There was a shallow scar on Han Jifei's face, but his eyes were not fierce. He smiled slightly coldly. "I should be one of the first people to notice you in this competition. Did it start with Xiongyu?" Lu Cheng had checked the information of each opponent, so he naturally knew that Han Jifei and Xiongyu were both members of Jianxian Hall. "Yes, at that time I looked at your information and the competition schedule, and I cursed in my heart. The semifinals and the final on the same night. Who arranged this? Didn't you, a guy with abnormal physical strength, take advantage of it?" Han Jifei laughed and shook his head. "Who knew? In the end, it seemed that I was the one who took advantage of it. This is really unexpected." Without waiting for Lu Cheng to answer, he continued, "This makes me a little embarrassed. It seems that the championship should belong to you." Speaking of this, his face became serious. "But I won't go easy on you. And I won't feel pressured because of this matter. This is not only because I also want to be the champion and to win, but also because the greatest respect for you is to go all out." What a coincidence, I also think so. I won't easily admit defeat, and I won't back down. Going all out to defeat you is the greatest respect for you. Lu Cheng also answered solemnly. After that, the two looked at each other and smiled. Everything was understood without words. In the remaining time, they adjusted their states, and Lu Cheng quickly determined the battle strategy. which was to bet on the opponent not to know that his physical strength was not exhausted at all, and his energy was almost half recovered. Of course, energy couldn't be quantified. It could only be said that his mind was clear and his reaction was not slow. In addition, because the dance stage was based on martial arts willpower, it emphasized the spirit and the soul, so the confrontation of momentum was particularly important. Thinking quickly, the referee looked at the clock and waved his right hand fiercely again. Begin. The final really began. Chapter 276. Begin. Han Jifei's martial arts suit swelled, and he took a step forward. His whole body was like a high-speed heavy truck. As the ring shook slightly, he rushed in front of Lucheng. Using his right fist as a charging horn, he twisted his waist and swung his arm, fiercely bumping out. It looked no different from a normal attack, but the whole process was silent to the point of being frighteningly quiet. Such an imposing and powerful attack didn't even stir up the wind. The contrast between the two was indescribably strange. After comprehending the meaning of withdraw, Lucheng could reach the state of silent punches and feet. Through the agitation of muscles and tendons, he could offset the explosive sound of the punch. However, he knew he couldn't reach Han Jifei's level. This should be combined with the circulation of a special force and the spread of waves. Knowing this, Lucheng understood that Han Jifei had a target in mind. He wasn't afraid of giving him time to prepare for severe warning, so he must have corresponding countermeasures, just like Zhang Zhutong. As for how to counter and what would happen, Lucheng thought of a few possibilities, but he couldn't make an accurate judgment. He could only be cautious. He visualized a thundercloud, tightened the muscles of his arms, stepped forward, swung his shoulders, endured the pain of his tendons, and threw a blast punch. With a crisp bang, the two fists were about to collide. At this moment, Han Jifei's martial arts suit suddenly tightened, revealing his angular muscles and dragon-like tendons. The movement that had disappeared a moment ago suddenly reappeared, and out of nowhere there was a clap of thunder. Boom! The air was stirred up, and the wind was raging. Han Jifei's fist inexplicably changed, strangely revealing a sense of emptiness. It attracted the surrounding airflow visible to the naked eye and condensed, creating a layer of air cushion in an instant. With this layer of protection, even if the opponent uses a simplified physical invulnerability move, I can escape in time. And the void fist's chi-condensing effect was not limited to this point. Puff! The two collided, and the air cushion exploded. Han Jifei took advantage of the recoil and flicked his wrist without warning, passing Lucheng's fist. He opened his 5 fingers with a snap, exposing his tendons, and grabbed his opponent's wrist. Lucheng didn't panic. He relaxed his tendons at the same time, and the sound of thunder echoed in his mind. Bang! Han Jifei's muscles swelled and vibrated outwards, shaking Han Jifei's 5 fingers and wrists. Pulling back his shoulders, Lucheng's right hand drew a beautiful arc and grabbed his opponent's wrist. Big and small hand wrap. Han Jifei's expression slightly changed. He suddenly took a deep breath. His body suddenly became empty, including his right arm. Lucheng's 5 fingers pressed down, but it was as if he was grasping at air. He felt that his opponent was weak and slippery like a loach. He quickly broke free and retreated. How could it be that simple? The look in Lucheng's eyes sharpened. His elbow joint made a crisp sound, and he threw out his forearm. Like a lightning bolt, he chased after Han Jifei. His fingers formed a sword in his palm, and he stabbed toward Han Jifei's right wrist. This was not some kind of move, but a second burst of force that utilized the changes in the joints and fascia. The feeling of emptiness couldn't be maintained for long. Han Jifei didn't dare to be negligent. He bounced his waist and back, hurriedly swinging his right shoulder, and pulling his arm quickly to avoid Lucheng's finger sword. At the same time, he took advantage of the situation to swell his abdominal muscles, trying to shake out his left arm to counterattack his opponent. One was advancing while the other was retreating. Lucheng's relentless pursuit of his right hand, and his series of strong attacks, was waiting for this moment. Sure enough, when Han Jifei threw out his left fist, because of the injury on his ribs, his movements weren't smooth enough. There was a moment of sluggishness. In a flash, Lu Cheng's qi and blood flowed back, and his spirit gathered in his lower abdomen. He stood like a human body Big Dan. Han Jifei had been in the arena for a long time. When he saw that Lu Cheng had grasped his weakness, he hastily stopped his movements and followed up with a force concentration. Boom! Lu Cheng's body expanded a bit, and his momentum flourished. He took a step forward, swung his left arm, and blasted out a forward punch that tore through the air. Since everyone thinks that I've used up too much strength in the last match, and won't be able to recover much in 1.5 hours, then I'll go along with this idea. I'll use an urgent attack to show off my momentum. So, I'll first set a small goal and complete 3 consecutive bursts. Han Jifei was a beat slower. Facing the enemy's aggressive attack, he only had enough time to use the power of the dance stage to swell his arms and cross them in front of his body. Bang! At the point of contact, the sound of wind filled the air. Han Jifei's defense was as steady as Mount Tai, but Lu Cheng used the force of the rebound to squirm his muscles and swing his body. Once again, he condensed his strength in his dantian, and without stopping, his whole body's strength gushed out. He did a small jump step, and his body leaned down. His right arm swelled to an astonishing degree, and he ferociously clenched his fist and threw a punch. Under this stance, it seemed to grow longer, and he wanted to directly hit his opponent's lower body into the arena. Brutal blizzard double explosion. Han Jifei didn't have enough time to dodge. He could only make another force concentration and raise his arms. When Lu Cheng's fist hit him, he followed the momentum and pulled back, reducing part of the power. Then he flipped over and fiercely blocked. Bang! Lu Cheng's body swayed again, but his center of gravity quickly stabilized. His spirit, qi blood, and strength gathered again. Han Jifei used the rebound of the block to slide back and quickly pull apart the distance. Bang! The strength in Lu Cheng's body gushed out. He lifted his waist, tightened his thighs, and his right foot almost didn't stop to kick out. It seemed to draw an afterimage in the air, filling the gap created by his opponent. In a flash, he rushed in front of his opponent like an avalanche. As Han Jifei retreated, he once again lowered his center of gravity and made a force concentration, making his body empty. Then as his temples bulged, he flew up and kicked Lu Cheng's instep. Bang! The soles of his shoes exploded, turning into butterflies that fell to the ground. Learning from Zhang Zhudong's example, Han Jifei was able to get rid of Lu Cheng's 24 blizzard strikes in advance. He launched his body movement, circling the pillar to attack. And Lu Cheng had achieved his initial goal. His momentum overshadowed his opponent, and he suppressed Han Jifei's idea of saving energy by gaining the upper hand. In fact, he could at most make a quadruple explosion just now. He couldn't make a quintuple explosion even if he was beaten to death, even if he had the support of the Jindan. So, he had always thought of a triple explosion. That way, even if he made a lot of tremor punches, he could still make a double explosion. His current strategy was to use the tremor punch, which didn't require much energy, when Han Jifei thought he had failed to seize the initiative, and was an arrow at the end of its flight. This seemed to be similar to the process of his fight with Zhang Zhutong, but at that time, he was trying to avoid such a situation. The reason was that the opponent was different, so of course the choice was different. The former's furnace force's burden on the body was very small, and the power was very terrifying. The longer the fight, the more Lu Cheng would suffer. But now Han Jifei had been fighting for a long time, and the energy consumption of the Void Fist was about the same as the Frost Force. It was worthwhile to compete with him in terms of physical strength. As for the Void Fist, Lu Cheng intended to use the Tremor Punch to deal with it. As soon as they made contact, he would immediately explode his muscles to create a shock and disperse the invisible force. Although this would reduce the impact of the shock on Han Jifei, it was the only way to be safe. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. Lu Cheng firmly carried out his idea and continuously responded to Han Jifei's attack with the Tremor Punch, regardless of whether he used the Void Fist or not. During this process, he didn't blindly defend, because when faced with an enemy who was much stronger than him, he would lose if he kept defending. As long as he seized the opportunity, Lu Cheng would immediately counterattack, suppress the enemy for a while, and then return to a stable defensive situation. Normally, Han Jifei wouldn't give him too many chances, but today his left rib was injured, and his flaws were obvious. From time to time, he would be exposed and targeted. Fists and feet flew back and forth, and the two people fought fiercely. The audience in the stadium and Yen Zhika in the waiting room unconsciously hung up their hearts, waiting for the outcome to be clear. Lu Cheng's body was injured, and his muscles and meridians were still under the influence of the furnace. The more he fought, the more painful it became. The more he fought, the more unbearable it became. The more he fought, the more his strength was affected. If it had just started, he wouldn't have been able to last more than 10 moves in front of Han Jifei. Fortunately, Han Jifei was also showing signs of fatigue, and couldn't take advantage of the several times when Lu Cheng's strength was weak. After fighting for a while, Han Jifei didn't clearly feel anything, but with his intuition and rich fighting experience, he sensed something bad was going to happen. If he continued to fight like this, his opponent, who seemed to be on the verge of collapse, wouldn't fall. At that time, his physical strength would drop to the dangerous level, and he would be in real danger. I can't drag this on. Han Jifei narrowed his eyes and made a decision. He immediately showed a flaw, exposing the weakness of his left rib. Lu Qing carried out his fighting style. He slid close, raised his left hand to protect his body, and swung his right arm. His fist shot out like lightning towards his opponent's left rib. Han Jifei's expression was grave and stern. He didn't pay attention to his opponent's fierce attack. He took a deep breath, emptied his body, and then used force concentration. Puff. As soon as Lu Qing hit him, he felt that Han Jifei's bones were contracting, and his muscles were collapsing, creating a hollow space in the void. He narrowly avoided the explosion of strength. Not good. Just as he was about to bounce back, he found that the hollow space drew support from the contraction of strength, spirit, and qi and blood. It had an indescribable suction force on material objects, making him involuntarily lean forward. Not good. Similar thoughts flashed through his mind again. Lu Qing no longer hesitated. His willpower surged and his body sank. His qi and blood immediately flowed back to embrace his strength and spirit, allowing him to stand steadily and withdraw his fist. At this point, he already couldn't consider how many more dance stage outbursts he could make. As soon as Lu Qing completed his force concentration, Han Jifei had already punched out his right fist. His muscles instantly propped up his martial arts suit and turned into a strong and powerful serpent. They rapidly rubbed against the air, creating a long and drawn-out sound like a dragon's roar. Lu Cheng's eyes blurred. He instinctively stimulated his qi and blood, spurting out the strength of the dance stage. He raised both hands to block his opponent's fist. Puff. He only felt that the area of contact was as soft as water, forming a strange contrast with the strength of the fist, canceling out his own block. After a short moment, the soft force turned to hard, and the strong force violently arrived. The void fist technique, combining strength and softness. Bang. Lu Qing was forced to take 2 steps back by this fist, leaving 2 footprints full of cracks. He lost his center of gravity. As a last resort, he could only make double explosion. He stabilized his stance, but his thoughts were almost blurred. Han Jifei saw the dawn of victory. Without hesitation, he made another force concentration. His body swelled, and he fiercely struck from the side. Bang. Lu Qing barely blocked the attack, but his 2-arm stance was broken. His chest and abdomen were wide open. His reaction seemed to have become sluggish, and he was so sleepy that he wanted to collapse on the spot. Han Jifei's body was also exhausted. He couldn't complete triple explosion, but how could he let go of this opportunity? He clenched his teeth, wriggled his muscles, and stepped forward. He shook his right arm and blasted out the strength of the void fist. He didn't hesitate to use up all his energy. Victory or defeat was at this moment. Everyone could see the change in the situation. They all held their breaths, either waiting or praying. Seeing that it was too late to block, Lu Qing did something he had thought about for a long time, but had never used in actual combat. When you're sleepy, how do you temporarily wake up your spirit? Wash your face with cold water and wake up. That's a common answer. Therefore, Lu Qing operated his power of frost. He let the cold flow condense and rush to his head, rushing to his face, and floating to the surface. The cold stimulated his body's protective mechanism and secreted hormones. He suddenly woke up, and his thoughts seemed to return to normal. This was probably a method to squeeze out one's potential, right? Lu Qing took advantage of this short period of mental stimulation to lower his waist and sit down. He condensed his blood and tensed his muscles. The referee next to him raised his eyebrows. Puff. Han Jifei hit Lu Cheng's chest, but it was as if he hit a piece of rotten wood. Then Lu Cheng's qi and blood burst out. His muscles swelled one by one, setting off a violent impact, creating a terrifying shock. Boom. Han Jifei's body jumped. His qi and blood surged, and his head was dizzy. Lu Cheng, relying on his instinctive punching and kicking kung fu, flicked his arm and used his fist as a sword to poke his opponent's neck. Then he felt his attack being blocked. At this moment, Lu Cheng's spirit was extremely exhausted. He couldn't think about what was going on. His vision went black, and he almost fainted in the ring. The referee reached out to support him. He also withdrew the palm that blocked his fist. He secretly exhaled, raised his right hand and announced in a clear voice, "The final, Lu Qing wins." Chapter 277. The final, Lu Qing wins. Lu Qing vaguely heard the voice coming from the sky. It took him a while to understand what it meant. I won? Did I defeat Han Jifei with the last blow? Am I still in the arena? One thought after another floated in his mind. He finally broke free from that grayish-white feeling. He could clearly see Han Jifei in front of him, who was gasping for breath. He could clearly see the two cracked footprints below and behind him. He could clearly see the wide ring around him. He could clearly see the familiar yet strange referee at the side. Noticing his gaze, the referee smiled amiably. Are you okay? No, I'm okay. Lu Qing felt his brain was completely numb. His thoughts were as muddled as porridge, which made his lungs and throat lose control. It became a little difficult to breathe, and he gasped for breath again and again. His eyelids drooped involuntarily. It seemed that he only needed 1 second to fall asleep. He resisted the urge to snap his fingers, and ignited a flame to burn the back of his hand. Lu Cheng's body jumped slightly. He felt the pain stimulate his brain through the nerve conduction. Everything outside the arena came back from the distant place, and entered his perception range. He heard the erupting cheers. Champion! Lu Cheng! Champion! Lu Cheng was stunned. He felt joy emerge from the bottom of his heart and mixed with exhaustion, reverberating in every corner of his body. I'm really the champion of the 3rd Provincial Young Warrior Championship competition. At this time, he just wanted to turn around, run out of the arena, rush into the lounge, hug his little fairy, and spin her excitedly. When Han Jifei broke Lu Cheng's stance with his double explosion, Yanjeka covered her mouth to prevent herself from sighing with regret. She had been mentally prepared for her boyfriend to lose the game. But until the last moment, she always had hope. She always thought that Cheng still had a way, and could create a miracle. If he doesn't admit defeat, I won't give up. By the time Lu Qing blocked Han Jifei's winning attack with the whole body as one, and took advantage of the situation to counterattack. In the blink of an eye, he won the match. The girl was stunned at first, but then she jumped up from the sofa. In spite of her delicate and refined image, she couldn't help but repeatedly wave her fists. Her mouth let out an excited shout. Won! Won! He won! Her eyes flickered and she suddenly calmed down. Her heart was in her throat because she saw her dear Cheng's eyes dimming and his body swaying. He was about to faint, but the referee caught him in time. What's wrong with him? Are you alright? Could it be that he had squeezed out his Esper ability and suffered a backlash? Yanjeka furrowed her brows and looked worried. Her eyes were full of anxiety. Fortunately, her nervousness didn't last long. Soon she saw Lu Qing coming back to his senses. He burned himself with the supernatural ability of the lighter, allowing his eyes to regain clarity. But at the same time his eyes were filled with fatigue. Idiot! The girl scolded him in a low voice. She knew that her boyfriend's brain couldn't keep up with his body, and he needed to rely on external stimuli for a short period of time. Why did he choose such a stupid method? Why did he burn himself for no reason? The emotional changes in such a short period of time were so intense that Yenjika actually felt mentally exhausted. She sat down again and let out a sigh of relief. However, her eyes never left the TV screen and that idiot's figure. There was a minute of silence in Lu Cheng's fan forum. No one posted anything. Unparalleled Dragon King was the first to come back to his senses. He won. Eternal Nightfall Brahmin, come out and look at God. In the previous discussion, even the two girls didn't think that Lu Cheng had much hope of defeating the second seed, Han Jifei, in his current state. My idol actually won. My idol is actually the champion. And why did I say actually? Brahmin said with a crying face emoji. I wasn't firm enough. I was wrong. I repent. Eternal Nightfall. Yan Shaoling replied with a dumbfounded expression. I was stunned just now. I was so scared that I grabbed my wig off. Naive sent a pair of eyes wide open in shock. 1 second I thought Lu Cheng was going to lose, and the next second I saw him turn the tables. Bull Demon King expressed his feelings, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. This was different from the battle between Lu Cheng and Xiaolin. At that time, after Lu Cheng made a severe warning, he first flew backward, then counterattacked and ran forward, seizing the opportunity to take down his opponent. There was an obvious turnaround in the middle, leaving the audience time to wonder. But just now, the outcome was reversed in just 2 moves. Everyone was stunned, and many people still didn't understand what had happened. Fortunately, I didn't say I was going to run naked this time. All the good names are taken by dogs, said with a relieved and confused expression. Yan Shaoling looked at their communication blankly, and suddenly posted another post. Why do I feel like this is a dream? It doesn't seem real at all. My Lu Cheng really won the championship? Okamoto's fan, hurry up. Come out. Drive, send seeds, let me feel the reality of the world. Damn Lingling, you are getting more and more dirty. Okamoto's fan joked. Yan Shaoling rubbed her face, looking at the forum and watching the live broadcast, hoping to get affirmation from the grandpa guest. In the live broadcast room of Xing Province Satellite TV, after a long silence, the host sighed. I'm afraid this is the most unexpected champion in the 3 competitions. Before the competition, and even a few days after, who would have thought that the champion would be Lu Cheng? At that time, almost no one knew who Lu Cheng was. Who was Lu Cheng? Yu Hong took a breath and calmed down. He shook his head and said with a smile, but this is also the most valuable champion in the 3 competitions. He defeated the 1st, 2nd, 5th and 6th seeds, and even defeated the 9th seed. This was far more valuable than the previous 2 champions. It was even possible that there would be no one like him in many competitions in the future. Teacher Yu Hong, what do you think of the competition just now? Lu Cheng was obviously going to lose. How did he suddenly turn the tables? The host was still a little confused. Yu Hong smiled and said, looking at the whole competition, Lu Cheng's strategy was very correct. His physical strength recovery exceeded everyone's expectations. Of course, he wanted to drag Han Jifei into a battle of attrition. Han Jifei was also alert and noticed it in advance. He took the risk of aggravating his injury and launched a desperate counterattack. He almost got the key to victory. But unfortunately he still failed. First, he was injured, and the timing was a little late, so he couldn't maintain the last burst of energy. Second, Lu Cheng used unconventional means. Unconventional means. The host was puzzled. Let's replay Lu Cheng's facial expression in the last 2 or 3 moves. Yu Hong gestured to the director. Look, Lu Cheng was obviously tired at this time. His eyes were a little dazed, but soon he shivered and his eyes brightened up. His whole body seemed to be full of energy. Then he tried to use force concentration. I suspect that he used some secret method to stimulate his body or overdraft his potential. That's why he was able to respond in time and win. Really, it's like that. Teacher Yu Hong, if you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have noticed it. I believe most of the audience and the audience in front of the TV didn't notice it either. The host suddenly realized. The audience at the scene was indeed like that. When the referee announced the result, they were still in a daze and couldn't believe their ears and eyes. How did he win? Although I think Lu Cheng deserved to be the champion, it was obvious that Han Jifei was about to win just now. In the strange silence, Tao Xiaofei suddenly laughed. He beat his thigh and laughed. I won. 80,000, I won 80,000. Haha, this is the first time in my life that I've made a lot of money with my ability. He was nicknamed, "You will lose every bet," by his predecessors. Qiu Hailin was awakened by his laughter. She exhaled a turbid breath and sighed blankly. It's like a dream. In the dream, Cheng, who was originally thought to be in the top 16 of the top 32, defeated all his strong opponents and entered the top 8, the top 4, the finals, and the champion. It was really like a dream. But in the dream, she was still a college student who had achieved nothing. Jiang Fei turned to look at her and sighed silently. Yes, it was like a dream. And the most illogical thing was that Cheng had won Yanjika's heart. Cheng Qili watched quietly with mixed feelings. There was joy, excitement, inferiority, and the desire to move forward. Why didn't I know that an average-looking boy could be so handsome? Chao Lele looked at the ring and whispered to herself. Then she turned to look at Qi Yunfei and the others. She found that the two little girls were blushing and their eyes were bright. You won. Cheng is the champion? Qi Fang pulled her husband's sleeve to make the final confirmation. Lu Jisheng took a deep breath and nodded hard. Champion. There were countless martial artists under the age of 26 in the province, and Cheng was the most powerful one among them. The cheers of the audience had been going on for a long time. The eyes of Lu Cheng's father and mother reddened, and they were overwhelmed with emotions. When did we check out? Qi Fang wiped the corner of her eyes and asked. Lu Jisheng felt the waves gradually calming down. He smiled and said, What? You don't want to go back? Do you want to stay for a few more days? Fatigue booked us until noon tomorrow. We can change to another hotel then. Even if Cheng is the champion and gets the prize money, we still need to be frugal. No, I want to go back. I want to go back now. Qi Fang's eyes were shining. I want to talk to them. I want to visit my relatives. I want to treat them. Not returning home was like walking in the night. Wu Ting was not as excited as she was in the previous games. Instead, she kept nagging her father, Wu Qinggui, Uncle Wei Renjia and the others. My coach is the champion of the provincial youth tournament. My coach is the champion. Wei Renjia was amused. He looked at Sun Yixing and Chu Weikai and asked with a sigh, You don't have any problem with Cheng coaching the preliminaries, right? No. Why would we? Chu Weikai answered with a smile. Sun Yixing also shook his head. No, it's an honor. To be honest, when he first heard that he was going to be specially trained by this young martial artist who was a few years younger than him, he had some resistance in his heart. But now, to be taught by the #1 young martial artist in the province was an honor. It was a matter of face. In the living room of the Lu family. Did you win? Lu Debong suddenly stood up and asked Lu Yanwei. Yes. Lu Yanwei nodded happily. Champion? Lu Debong added. Champion. Lu Yanwei answered excitedly. Ah. Lu Debong laughed heartily. Ancestors bless us. Ancestors bless us. When Cheng comes back, we'll go to his grave. While talking, he picked up the phone again and dialed a number. The champion of the provincial youth tournament. How honorable. Wang Lili looked at Lu Jiqiang and said, gnashing her teeth. Lu Jiqiang muttered. Why are you so excited? He's not our son. He stopped talking and looked at Lu Yanwei instinctively. Lu Yanwei responded with a bitter smile. He recognized his own mediocrity and longed for an extraordinary life. He still couldn't find a way out. How painful. Senior brother Zhou. Did you watch the competition? Yi Yaoting sent a message to Zhou Zhengquan after a few minutes of silence. Zhou Zhengquan replied quickly. Yes. I didn't expect to be overtaken by him so soon. How long has it been since the victory in May? Some people really make you lose your temper to compare. Well, you can go and rest for a while. The award ceremony is in half an hour. Don't forget, or you won't get the money. The referee Yin Huaming reminded them with a smile. Okay, thank you. Lu Yanwei replied politely. Enduring the pain in his head, he walked to Han Jifei and held out his right hand. Han Jifei had stopped breathing and looked at him quietly for a few seconds. Then he also held out his hand and high-fived Lu Yanwei. Click. The camera flashed, recording this moment. Although I don't know how you lost, you did lose. There's no excuse for it. Congratulations, you deserve the title. Han Jifei said sincerely. Lu Yanwei didn't hide. He smiled and said, I used my supernatural ability to stimulate myself at the end. I squeezed out my potential and overdrew my spirit. I guess I'll be weak for a few days. I'm afraid it's more than that. I see. Han Jifei was completely relieved. He shook his head, turned around, and walked to the stone steps. He walked slowly because of the sore muscles all over his body. Lu Yanwei walked down the arena in another direction. Although he was strong, he still walked unsteadily and even slightly askew. Hello Lu Yanwei. Congratulations on winning the championship and becoming the strongest young fighter in our province. Wu Wei appeared and stopped the big winner of the competition, the Demon King. No matter how Lu Yanwei developed, he could be recorded in the history of martial arts development in this province with this championship alone. Thank you. Lu Yanwei smiled and said, enduring the pain and impatience. At this time, I just want to see Ku, talk to her and celebrate with her. I can see that you're very tired. I'll ask you 3 questions. Wu Wei smiled dutifully. Can you share with us how you feel about winning the championship? I'm very happy and excited, but I'm too tired to show it. I can only feel happy in my heart. Lu Yanwei took a breath and said in a humorous tone, as for my feelings, I'm grateful to every opponent for giving me different and difficult training. I'm grateful to my parents for supporting my willfulness and indulging me to walk on the road of martial arts. I'm also grateful to my friends for giving me great encouragement. But I'd like to thank my coach more. Without him, I might never have become what I am now. His words had a double meaning. He thanked Coach Shi and expressed his love for Coach Yan. Without Coach Yan, he might have to take a lot of detours to grow up. He might even die because of careless practice. Without Coach Yan, he wouldn't have become what he was today. He wouldn't have joined the martial arts club to join in the fun, nor would he have gone to the lake at night and picked up the jindan. In the lounge, Yanjeka couldn't help but laugh. She turned her head and looked to the side. Cheeky. Chung is so cheeky. She clenched her teeth and pursed her lips. Her eyes were shining as if she could speak. Her cheeks were rosy and full of charm. He actually said it in the interview. I've never seen such a disciple. Geezer sure looked at the TV screen and scolded him unhappily. If this brat sincerely wanted to thank me and only me, he would definitely say master directly. If this was in ancient times, a disciple like him wouldn't have lived for more than 3 days. You really have a grateful heart. Wu Wei smiled politely. Second question. How did you turn the tables in the end? Our guest teacher, Yu Hong, thinks you used a secret method to stimulate your body's potential. It's not a secret method. When I was tired from learning, I used to wash my face with cold water to refresh myself. Then I could fight for a while more. Lu Qing knew he couldn't hide this from others who would study him frame by frame. So he answered frankly, before the last move, I was really very tired. But there was no other way, so I could only use the power of frost to stimulate my face. I didn't expect it to work. I was refreshed and had some strength again. But if I do it again, I'm afraid it won't work. The stimulation from the burning flame only helped him regain some ability to move. It was impossible for him to use force concentration again. I see. When I was a student, I used to be refreshed immediately after washing my face with cold water in the winter. Wu Wei suddenly understood. In the live broadcast room, Yu Hong added, Hehe, Lu Qing does have some fighting wit. However, this is actually the prototype of the secret method of squeezing out potential. But the secret method will exceed the limit and exceed the body's ability to bear, which will lead to serious consequences. In the studio, Wu Wei smiled brightly and said again, Third question, you must be the head of the recording team. Do you have any ideas or suggestions for your own nickname? Not too bad. Not too weird. Under normal circumstances, Lu Qing would definitely use his brain and choose one first. But now he didn't have the energy, so he could only respond with a wry smile. Well, go to rest. There's an award ceremony later. Wu Wei stepped aside and saw Lu Qing walking quickly to the lounge. Then she turned around and rushed to Han Jifei, who was waiting on the other side. Jifei, I won't touch on your sore spot. Wu Wei had interviewed the Sage Hall several times, so she was familiar with Han Jifei. First question. What do you think of Lu Qing winning the championship? He deserves it. Han Jifei lowered his eyes and said, he was able to defeat so many strong players and win the championship. Whether it was luck or not, or whether it was because we didn't know him well enough, it is enough to show that he is very strong. He definitely deserves the title of champion of the youth tournament. More importantly, he is still very young. His growth rate is still amazing. Wu Wei sighed and added, second question. Can you talk about your current mood? Loss, regret, pain. But the youth tournament is not the only thing on the road of martial arts. Life has to go on, and the road of martial arts has to go on. I will adjust my mood as soon as possible to face the third stage of the preliminaries. Han Jifei exhaled with a slightly fluctuating expression. Then we look forward to you winning glory for Xing province. Wu Wei nodded and said, third question. What do you think of your nickname? In the last recording, my nickname was Evil Ghost General. I hope it's not as bad as this. Han Jifei complained, which was rare for him. Taking back his phone, Lu Qing raised his hand to the stands and applauded. Then he quickly walked back to the lounge and opened the door. He saw Yin Zhika, whose cheeks were flushed and her eyes were bright. The girl pouted and said, why did you want to stimulate your brain with the supernatural ability of frost? The brain is very fragile and delicate. Even mighty ones with physical invulnerability don't dare to touch it too much. What if you make yourself stupid? You are already stupid enough. At this point, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. She glanced at Lu Qing and said with a mixture of shyness and happiness, welcome back, my champion Qing. Don't you want to show your appreciation? Lu Qing seemed to have forgotten the pain in his head, and said with a smirk, am I flirting with my little fairy with my life? Humph. What do you want to show your appreciation? Why don't you take a hot bath and relax, you stinky Qing? Yin Zhika walked to him and helped him to the bathroom. Lu Qing tried to explain. I didn't stimulate my brain just now. I only stimulated the surface of my skin. Yin Zhika was about to say something when she suddenly paused and patted her forehead. You've overdrawn your potential. It's not good to take a hot bath to relax. It's easy to cause problems. You have to recover naturally first. Sit down, I'll massage your temples. No, your chest was hit by Han Jifei. I have to apply ointment and rub the wound for you to avoid any hidden dangers. She stepped back in annoyance and raised her hand like a primary school student. Let me think about what to do first. It's a bit messy. She was too excited and concerned. While she was thinking, she suddenly found that the surroundings had become quiet. She raised her head subconsciously and saw Lu Qing staring at her quietly. His eyes were deep and his smile was obvious. Their eyes met. Lu Qing reached out, grabbed Yin Zhika's wrist, and pulled her to him. After a while, the girl pushed Lu Qing away and brushed her scattered hair. She turned her head and lowered her eyes. Sit down and take off your clothes. Okay. Lu Qing looked at her with a smile, stepped back, and sat on the sofa. He took off his shirt, revealing his sweaty chest and the red and black wounds. Although he had dispersed the force of the virtual punch with the force concentration, the muscles on his chest were not as strong as his hands and feet, so there was still a hard wound. Yin Zhika subconsciously glanced at it, and felt shy again. She quickly found the ointment, squatted down, dug out a piece, and rubbed it hard. Lu Qing, who was in pain and happiness, saw the expression on his little fairy's face and said with a smirk, are you thinking of the half-naked picture I posted last time? What do you think? My body is good, right? Rogue. Super cheeky. Yin Zhika was shy and anxious. She scolded him but didn't increase the strength of her hands. Lu Qing knew when to stop and didn't say anything more. He closed his eyes and began to rest. There were only 20 minutes left before he had to attend the award ceremony. After a while, Yin Zhika finished applying the ointment. She stood up and sat on the sofa, pretending to be bold. Come, lie on my lap. I'll massage your temples to make you feel more relaxed before taking a shower. You'll be squashed. Lu Qing didn't want to. I'm going to be a professional ninth pin girl in the second half of the year. Come on. Yenjika patted her thighs, but her eyes shyly looked to the side. Okay. Lu Qing happily lay down and used her thighs as a pillow to make it easier for her to massage. Lu Qing felt comfortable. He was surrounded by a familiar and attractive fragrance. His heart gradually calmed down and his tense mind started to relax. Could sing me a song, the quiet kind. Lu Qing closed his eyes and said dreamily. Yenjika looked at him with a smile. She thought for a while and hummed in a low voice. When you're old, your hair is white, and you're sleepy. When you're old, you can't walk anymore, and you're napping by the fire, reminiscing your youth. When you're old, your eyes droop, and the light is dim. When I'm old, I really hope this song is for you. Lu Cheng's thoughts drifted in his ears. His heart was filled with peace and joy. Chapter 278. In the conference room of the TV station, the leader leaned forward with his hands on the table and roared at the people. The finals are over and you still haven't thought of a nickname? Do you still want to make a show? The loud noise and splashing saliva made the young man shrink his neck. He raised his hand weakly and said, I have. Then why don't you say it? The leader glared at him and roared. The meeting has just started. I haven't had time to say anything. The young man complained in his mind, but didn't dare to complain. He said honestly, since we have decided on the 4 heavenly sons, why don't we choose some mythical creatures as nicknames? They can correspond to each other, and be ranked according to their strength. The leader thought for a while and said, Okay, what nickname do you think we should give Lu Cheng? The young man was prepared and blurted out. Sky-shaking roar. The woman with half-rimmed glasses glanced at him silently, and then lowered her head, pretending to write in her notebook. The others had different expressions, but most of them were trying to hold back their laughter. Sky-shaking roar? The leader frowned seriously and expressed his doubt with different tones and tones. Sky-shaking roar contains the meaning of Lu Cheng's tremor punch, and his strength in the youth tournament. I think it's quite suitable, right? The young man was full of confidence, but the more he spoke, the more nervous he became. The leader nodded slightly and said, Okay, you made a pun on one word. But why did you use roar instead of roar? Lu Cheng has mastered the ice sect force, and the corresponding simplified physical invulnerability moves. Isn't ice roar more suitable? Roar. Roar. Roar doesn't match with sky-shaking roar. It doesn't feel strong. And didn't Lu Cheng roar when he defeated Zhang Zhutong in the semifinals? The young man tried to explain. Sky-shaking roar then. We can't waste any more time. The leader made the final decision. Since Lu Cheng has made up his mind, I've also thought of the others. Listen and see what you think. Han Jifei, Rock of the Void, Zhang Zhutong, Windfire Dragon, Lu Xuanjin, Formless Eagle. What do you think? Any opinions? The young man and the woman with half-rimmed glasses looked at each other and said in unison, No. Is there really nothing? I just thought of it casually. I feel that there should be some flaws. The leader said humbly. Not really. I think it's better than the previous 2 years. The woman with the half-rimmed glasses answered sincerely. At the very least, it wasn't that bad, and it wasn't that weird. It was just that this seemed more like the nickname of a mountain king, like the nickname of a passerby, A, B, C, D. Yes, it's good that he has improved. The leader was overjoyed and waved his hand. Then it settled. The gentle and mellow voice reverberated in the room for a long time. Lu Qing fell asleep unknowingly. His body and mind relaxed. He seemed to have several dreams in a daze until Yenjika woke him up. He saw the chandelier bursting with light. The award ceremony is starting in a few minutes. Go and take a hot shower. Yenjika said with a smile. Actually, it's okay if you don't take a shower. Let's stink them to death. The short sleep made Lu Qing feel even more tired. He wanted to ignore everything else, close his eyes, turn over, hug his little fairy, and go back to sleep. But his head was not as empty as before. He forced himself to sit up with perverted willpower, and instinctively rubbed the girl's thigh to relieve her discomfort of being pressed down for more than 20 minutes. At the same time he said with a smile, "Then tomorrow I will have the nickname Ji Gong. The real notoriety will spread far and wide." Notoriety, notoriety. Yenjika was amused, but her eyes were looking at her boyfriend tenderly. Out of habit, she gave him a gentle push. "Then why don't you go and take a shower?" Luqing didn't hesitate. He jumped back and stood up. He rummaged for a change of boxers and martial arts suit and entered the bathroom. Yenjika picked up the phone in silent mode and browsed the news that she had no time to read. Gu Shuang suggested excitedly, "Kuko, has your man recovered? Let's go to Happy tonight? Let's have a celebration with him. He's the champion of the provincial youth fighters." Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled, her hands quickly typing on the keyboard on the screen. "He's recovered, but he has to go to bed early and get up early. How can he be a night owl? He has to continue his morning exercises tomorrow." "Me too." After typing this sentence, she did not send it out. Instead, she left it there as a draft. When Luqing came out of the bathroom after a quick shower, she looked at her boyfriend drying his hair with a towel and asked with dimples, "Gu Shuang suggested a party to celebrate your youth tournament champion. Do you want to go?" "Do you want me to go?" Luqing asked with a smile. Yenjika smiled and said, "I'm fine with anything. It's up to you." "Then forget it. I'm very tired and need to go to bed on time. I can't delay tomorrow's morning exercises." Luqing resisted the temptation of a party and said in a soft voice but determined voice. The championship was short, but the practice was long. Yenjika smiled and looked at Luqing happily. Then she lowered her head and pressed the send button, replying to Gu Shuang with the draft she had written earlier. "I knew Cheng would give such an answer. It's not telepathy, but the tacit understanding and understanding built up over time. Of course, even if I knew he would give such an answer, I wouldn't make the decision for him. I should ask him about it. This is basic respect. I'll just type a reply for him in advance to save time." "What's wrong?" Luqing was surprised by the girl's reaction and added, "In fact, I don't think you want to go either. Your most urgent wish now is to become a professional ninth pin fighter. How can you be willing to waste a day of morning exercises?" Yenjika turned her eyes and raised her head. When she was about to say something, she heard a knock on the door. "Mr. Luqing, the award ceremony is about to begin. You can get ready to enter." Fong Siki reminded him. "Okay." Luqing answered loudly. Then he looked at the girl and asked quickly, "Ku, how about sleeping at my place tonight? Let's do morning exercises together tomorrow? I don't want to do anything bad. It's just that my head is still throbbing, and I want my little fairy to give me a massage." Yenjika suddenly thought of the joke Dirty Tong once told about men swearing to do nothing. She felt shy and glanced at Luqing. Then she said with a smile, "It's a pity that my parents are here in Gaofun. They're watching the game outside. I have to go and greet them tonight. We're not traveling together. Why do you want me to sleep with you all the time?" "Okay." Luqing sighed with a wry smile. He deeply understood the ability of Empress Dowager to appear at the critical moment. Seeing his reaction, Yenjika pursed her lips and snorted. "But I can ask you out for a date tomorrow." "Okay." Luqing cheered up, opened the door, and walked out of the lounge. Yenjika watched his back disappear before she picked up her phone and saw Gu Shuang's exclamation. He's played 2 matches tonight, and it's the happy moment of winning the championship. Why isn't he relaxing? He still wants to get up early and do morning exercises tomorrow? I can't be friends with him. What a pervert. Yenjika smiled and put her phone back. She waited until everyone's attention was on the arena before she quietly left the lounge. She walked around and returned to her original position along the aisle. As soon as Luqing walked out, he heard waves of high-pitched trumpets and banging of inflatable hammers. The atmosphere was very lively. He walked forward slowly and waved to all directions. The atmosphere became even more lively, turning it into a pot of boiling porridge. In such an environment, he stepped into the ring and saw Han Jifei, whose left rib was obviously wrapped in a bandage. He saw Zhang Zhutong, who had regained his vigor. He saw Lu Xuanjin, who was a teenager with striking white skin. He also saw the referee of the previous match, who had changed into a smart white martial arts suit. Next, Mr. Yin Huaming, the chairman of the Martial Artist Association of Xing Province, and the provincial government, will present the prizes to the top 4 of this year's youth tournament. A loud voice came from the broadcast. Following the announcement, the hostess brought 4 crystal trophies to the arena. In the center of the tray was the symbol of the champion's fist. If this were a civil tournament, there would be an enlarged version of the check model. However, in this way, the prestige of the masters would plummet and be rejected by the higher-ups of the Martial Artist Association. First, the provincial government will present the prizes to Zhang Zhutong and Lu Xuanjin. As soon as the broadcast ended, the big screens in the arena were divided into 2 groups. They showed Zhang Zhutong and Lu Xuanjin's progress, from the 4th and 5th round to the double loss round, to the top 32, the top 16, the top 8, and finally the beginning of the top 4. As soon as the screen stopped, the guests in suits picked up the trophies and gave them to Zhang Zhutong and Lu Xuanjin. After the same process, Han Jifei received the runner-up title. Finally, Mr. Yin Huaming, the chairman of the Martial Artist Association of Xing Province, will present the prizes to the champion of this year's youth tournament. The announcer shouted again. Lu Cheng saw the kind-looking Yin Huaming walking in front of him. He also saw the big screen replaying his journey to the championship. In the first round, he defeated Xiong Yu. He easily won the 5th round and the first 2 rounds of the double-loss match. In the last round of the double-loss match, he met the 9th seed Lu Xuanjin and announced his existence with 6 consecutive explosions. In the top 32, he defeated Xing Jingjing, who was actually quite difficult to deal with a small wound. In the top 16, he defeated Qiu Lin with a severe warning. In the top 8, he defeated Meng Jiefeng with brute force. In the semifinals, he defeated the 1st seed Zhang Zhutong. The images flashed one by one, condensing all the exciting battles Lu Cheng had experienced into 1 minute. Yin Huaming picked up the trophy and handed it to Lu Cheng with both hands. He smiled and said, "You deserve it." Lu Cheng was still thinking about the previous scene. He subconsciously reached out and took the trophy. At the same time, the big screen stopped at the scene where he fought back and defeated Han Jifei. The audience in the arena let out the loudest and craziest cheer of the night. Champion! Lu Cheng raised the trophy, feeling the dazzling lights in front of him. The crowd was like a tide, shouting like waves. He returned to the hotel at around 10 o'clock in the evening. Subconsciously, he went to the window and looked down at the Gaofan Martial Arts Stadium that had brought him beautiful memories. The lights in the stadium were still on. In the darkness, the light was dreamy. At this time, Lu Cheng's phone rang. He picked it up and couldn't hide his joy. Yenjika sent a snickering emoji. Good news. Empress Dowager has regained her weight. She won't ask me to do morning exercises with her anymore. Late at night, in the room of Mingqi International Hotel, Lu Jisheng was so excited that he couldn't sleep for a long time. At this time, he felt his wife Qi Fong turn over and heard her mumbling in her sleep. Cheng won the championship, won the championship. Chapter 279. The next morning, Gu Shuang was woken up by the sound of Xing Jingjing getting up to train. She picked up her phone in a daze and glanced at the time. She grumbled. It's only 7 o'clock. Sister Jingjing, I don't want to sleep in the same bed as you anymore. Poor me. Why do I have a group of girlfriends who don't like to sleep in? Xing Jingjing answered calmly. Ku went to the morning exercise at 5:30. Inhuman. You're all inhuman. Gu Shuang wailed. She browsed the news on Weibo and other portals, and saw a local news report. The rise of a martial arts supernova. Gu Shuang suddenly felt refreshed. She swiped and entered the content interface. She glanced at the source of the news, and found it was today's provincial newspaper. She moved her eyes down and read the content. At the age of 19, he has achieved the Dan stage and reached the professional 8th pin. He has only been practicing martial arts for a year, and he is already the champion of the youth fighter competition in Xing Province. All these dazzling halos and beautiful words together form a young genius who is not much inferior to Peng Liyun and Run Li. He is Lu Cheng from Xioshan City, a sophomore at Songqing University. Our province has been yearning for such an exciting martial arts genius for many, many years. The road of martial arts is long. How far will this supernova go? What kind of brilliance will he emit? Let's wait and see. Wow! Gu Shuang was enraptured. She diligently downloaded the electronic version of the provincial newspaper and saved it. Then she sent the picture and link to her girlfriends. Cuckoo, look at your man. The second page of the provincial newspaper. The local news focus of the portal. Gain face. Gain face. The coolness of the morning faded away. The scorching sun took over the earth, sprinkling golden light on the ground. Lu Cheng and Yanjika smiled at each other and ended their training at the same time. Yanjika took out her phone to see if there was any important news or call. She asked with concern, "How are you feeling? Does your head still hurt?" Cheng said he didn't sleep well last night. It was like he couldn't sleep because he was too tired and couldn't meditate. Therefore, he closed his eyes and didn't fall asleep until around 2 o'clock. The throbbing pain in his head was still there. Much better. After standing still for half an hour, I feel alive again. Lu Qing replied with a smile. I guess it's because I couldn't sleep last night without my little fairy massaging my temples. Finally, he could conceal his spirit and chi again. So you're blaming me? Yanjika glared at her boyfriend and lowered her eyes again. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. Ching Ching, you're on the news. The second page of the provincial daily. The local news focus of the portal website. She repeated Gu Shuang's words. What is it? Lu Qing leaned over and wrapped his arm around her waist. They started reading the news together. Yanjika held back her laughter as she watched the news. She felt both proud and a little embarrassed because the highly praised protagonist in the news was right beside her. The writing is not bad, but the photo is not good. You're not even 1/10,000th as handsome as our Cheng. The girl's eyes were like crescent moons, and her lips curved into a smile. Hey, you're getting more and more exaggerated. Lu Qing couldn't help laughing. Yanjika pursed her lips and said with a smile. As your life mentor, I can't be caught up by you in any aspect besides, after I get used to it. I find you much more pleasing to the eye than those handsome guys. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Lu Qing concluded with satisfaction. Bah! Yanjika's cheeks were slightly red, and she turned her head to look aside. Then she thought of something and turned back. With bright eyes and a smile she shouted, Hello, Beauty Lu. You, what kind of idea is that? Lu Qing wiped his sweat with a smile. Then he remembered to check his phone, and unexpectedly found a message from a stranger. Hello, Mr. Lu Qing. I'm Little Zhao from Xing Province Satellite TV. Are you free today or tomorrow? Can you spare 1 or 2 hours to participate in the special program of Xing Province martial artists? You're going to record this program? I'm looking forward to your nickname. Yanjika also came over and said with a smile. Lu Qing smelled the girl's slightly sweaty fragrance and glanced at her. Why do you look like you're gloating? No, it's just that. Yanjika laughed in a low voice. I've always felt that the fact that those people in charge of recording nicknames were not killed or injured can be used to prove the self-restraint and demeanor of our province's martial artists. Are you implying that my nickname will be very strange and unique? Lu Qing obviously understood the meaning of his girlfriend's words. Yanjika laughed and then praised. You know me better now. We're going on a date today. How about tomorrow? Lu Qing asked for his fairy's opinion. Yanjika pursed her lips and smiled. How about today? I'm looking forward to that nickname. Besides, if we keep delaying it, we won't be able to have a proper date. You're right. I'll go there in the morning and have a date in the afternoon. It's so hot today. Where should we go? The water amusement park? Lu Qing suggested. Next time. I didn't bring a swimsuit. Yanjika hesitated. Although she could directly go to the mall to buy one later, she still felt a little embarrassed to wear a swimsuit in front of Cheng. She felt unprepared. Before Lu Qing said anything, she added, Let's play board games? I want to show you what IQ is like. Let's have dinner with Shuang Shuang and Sister Jingjing tonight. Well, there's probably a post-match dinner for the youth tournament. Let's do it tomorrow. After discussing the arrangement, Lu Cheng replied to little Zhao from the TV station. Can I come over at 9:30 in the morning? Sure, I'll pick you up at the door. This is my phone number. Sorry to trouble you, Mr. Lu Cheng. Little Zhao replied quickly. Looking at Lu Cheng's serious expression, Yenjika suddenly burst into laughter. Actually, what I want most now is to bring my textbooks and find a place to study with you. It doesn't matter whether there's air conditioning or not. Anyway, I have a walking air conditioner. We can do that when we go back to Xioshan. Well, can you come to my house? I haven't shown you my old photo album. My parents won't be home during the day except for mealtimes. Lu Cheng proposed happily. Yenjika thought for a while and couldn't help but ask curiously, okay, what would Cheng be like when he was young? What would he be like in the past? What would the bed he slept on and the home he lived in for so many years be like? After making an appointment with Yenjika, Lu Cheng first dropped her off outside the house of his father-in-law and mother-in-law in Gaofun. Then he took a taxi to Xing Province Satellite TV. On the way, he received a message from the bank. 600,000 yuan of after-tax bonus had been transferred to his account. Lu Cheng couldn't help but count the zeros several times. He couldn't hide his joy. This was the largest amount of money he had ever seen. His savings in the past were less than 1/10 of this amount. After becoming a professional 8th pin fighter and entering the martial arts circle, he was indeed different from before. His income was increasing rapidly. Lu Cheng had received a coaching salary of 20,000 yuan at the end of July. Adding the 10,000 yuan before, the 9,000 yuan security fee given by Director Xing, and the 9,000 yuan for individual coaching, he had a little more than 21,000 yuan left. After deducting the consumption of medicine, dating expenses, buying small things for Ko from time to time, and his own spending on food, he had a little more than 54,000 yuan left, which was indeed less than 1/10 of 600,000 yuan. Well, what gift should I buy for Ko? What should I buy for my parents? I should also buy something for Fei Fei and the other two girls. Well, I have to ask my life coach, Coach Yen, about this. My house has only 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. It's getting more and more inconvenient. Also, it's getting old. Should I buy a bigger house? As for myself, I'll be satisfied with a better computer. Of course, he couldn't spend too much. There were very few competitions that were suitable for him, and had such generous prizes. They were usually held once every few years. After reaching the dance stage, he would often need the assistance of medicinal soups and elixirs. Furthermore, dating was something that would last forever. While thinking about the future and the pleasure of spending money, Lu Cheng arrived at the entrance of the TV station and saw a young man with messy hair waiting there. Seeing Lu Cheng, the young man with messy hair raised his phone and waved. Mr. Lu Cheng, I'm Little Zhao. Hello, Lu Cheng responded politely. Little Zhao glanced at him and said, we don't have much time. Come with me to do your makeup first. Okay. Lu Cheng knew nothing about the program recording process, so he didn't raise any objections. In the makeup room, when he was being powdered, he finally remembered what his girlfriend was concerned about. He raised his voice and asked Little Zhao, hello, can I ask you about my nickname in the Book of Generals? Hee, I want to be mentally prepared so that I won't make any mistakes during the program recording. The young man with messy hair, Little Zhao, swallowed hard. Yes, your nickname is, our leader gave you Sky-Shaking Roar. Ah? Sky-Shaking Roar? Lu Cheng was confused at first, but then he instinctively raised his voice and asked. Little Zhao's legs went soft, and he almost lost his footing. He supported himself with one hand on the wall and said, yes, the heaven shaking that shook the world, and the hoe of the golden fur hoe. I feel it's quite powerful. Yes, it's quite powerful. Lu Cheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Isn't the TV station people's aesthetic sense too strange? Although it's much better than the previous 2 nicknames. For a moment he wanted to go in and out of the TV station 7 times. After finishing his makeup, he lowered his head and sent his nickname to Yenjika. He said with a blank expression, Sky-Shaking Roar. After waiting for a minute, Yenjika replied, Ha ha ha. I laughed until my stomach hurts. Ha ha ha. When I saw this nickname, the image of a husky howling to the moon flashed in my mind. Sky-shaking roar. Ha ha ha. Laugh, laugh, laugh as much as you want. Lu Cheng sent an emoji of helplessly covering his face. The young man with messy hair, Little Zhao, was frightened. He said carefully, "You can go to the studio now." Chapter 280. After sizing up the legendary studio, Lu Cheng's eyes swept over the lights and the staff, and finally fell on the hostess of the program. She stood between the two opposite sofas, wearing a white shirt and a black dress. Her legs were beautiful, but they were as thin as sticks. Lu Cheng always had the illusion that they would be blown off by the wind. He couldn't bear to look at her directly, just like his reaction when he saw a car accident on the road. This female host was one of the TV celebrities in the province that he was quite familiar with. He often saw her when he accompanied his parents to watch the programs. More importantly, she was also in charge of the previous young martial artist call-in recording. He had watched several episodes back then, and had a good impression of this beautiful and intellectual host. Wuxia, who began to appear on the stage of Xing Province Satellite TV 5 years ago, gradually gained fame and gradually took on some important programs. As for her specific age, he didn't pay attention to it. He only knew that in the past year, she had appeared frequently and seemed to have a high status in the TV station. Curious about celebrities, Lu Cheng didn't hide his eyes. He found that Wuxia's image today was completely different from when she debuted. Her waistcoat long hair was coiled into a high bun, and her face was painted with delicate makeup, deliberately highlighting the intellectual side of her. She walked a mature but not old-fashioned style. She looks better in person than on screen, but still not as good as Ku. Lu Cheng thought and smiled, recalling Yanjika's frown and smile. My little fairy is so perfect. Of course, this could be caused by his mentality that beauty was in the eye of the beholder. Aware of his gaze, Wuxia turned her head and followed his line of sight. Their eyes met. Lu Cheng smiled slightly, and nodded to greet her in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Wuxia was stunned at first, and then recognized that he was today's guest. She gently nodded as a response, and then continued to communicate with the assistant. Mr. Lu Cheng, this is the outline of today's interview. Please take a look and have a rough idea in mind. You don't need to memorize, just have a preliminary draft. It will be more realistic if you make a little slip of the tongue or stutter. Little Zhao, the young man with the chicken nest hair, handed over a few pages and smiled flatteringly. In short, you can do whatever you want. Just make sure what you want to say, and what you don't want to say. Thank you. Lu Cheng took the outline of the interview. As he browsed through it, he allowed the staff to tie a black box-shaped loudspeaker to his pants and cover it with his clothes. The wires ran from the inside to the collar and connected to the collar microphone. After a few more reminders, Lu Cheng turned off his phone and stood at the stage, listening to the director instructing the crew. After a few minutes, Wuxia stood up from the sofa, faced the camera, and elegantly introduced the youth tournament. This time, we'll call the top 4 Heavenly Sons. They're the Heavenly Sons with boundless prospects. Let's welcome the champion of this tournament, the 19-year-old genius fighter. Sky-shaking roar Lu Cheng. Even though Lu Cheng had already known the nickname in advance, he still didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard the name, Lu Cheng, the heaven-shaking mantis. His body still shook once, twice, thrice, slightly, and heavily. Who the F***ck are these people? He cursed in his heart as he walked up the stairs to where the 2 sofas were. Lu Cheng, is this the first time you've participated in this kind of program? Wuxia gently led the rookie. Yes. Lu Cheng tried his best to look calm and behave calmly. This was a program that could be watched by thousands of households. If he made a mistake, he would definitely be laughed at by Ku for a lifetime. When I'm old, my dark history will also be mentioned next to the stove. Wuxia laughed in a low voice. Then you should first say hello to the audience in front of the TV. Hello everyone. Lu Cheng bowed to the camera. After finishing the process, everyone sat down. Wuxia put her legs on the side, showing the elegance of a mature woman. She laughed and said, "Lu Cheng, I'll call you Lu Cheng. You're still a student. You've entered the dance stage in less than a year, and become the leader of the young fighters in a province. It's really a legendary experience. I'm curious. Have you really never been in touch with martial arts before college?" Of course I've been in touch with it. Considering the popularity of modern martial arts, if I really haven't been in touch with it, I'd have to be isolated from the world. Lu Qing answered with a smile, trying to make his words sound humorous. But this kind of contact is limited to the theory on paper. For example, watching the competition, talking about the strong, collecting relevant information, and specific practice of martial arts. Does the physical education class count? Most likely not, Wei Yi replied with a smile. Since you haven't been in touch with the practice of martial arts in the past 18 years, why did you want to join the martial arts club as soon as you entered college? I've always been very passionate about martial arts. My house is full of posters of several physical invulnerability mighty ones. But I didn't pass the selection before, and felt that there was no hope for me to go on this road. So I concentrated on studying and worked hard for the exam. Lu Qing smiled slightly. Wei Yi suddenly said, "So, after going to college, the pressure of studying was reduced and you had more free time. So your love for martial arts pushed you to join the martial arts club? Is this the reason why you suddenly want to get in touch with martial arts?" No. Lu Qing shook his head seriously. Joining the martial arts club and getting in touch with martial arts was, of course, because of his little fairy. Then what did you want to say just now? Wei Yi kept calm with her rich on-the-spot experience. Since it's not the reason, then why did you say a lot of things before? Boy, do you know that this is called giving an irrelevant answer? Lu Qing smiled and said, "This is the reason why I haven't been in touch with the practice of martial arts in the past 18 years. As for why I want to join the martial arts club as soon as I entered college, that's another story, and I don't want to tell this story to others for the time being. Brother-in-law, it's so good to have you as a role model. If you really want to answer according to the facts, this is a program that can be watched all over the country, and it will be a hot topic in the blink of an eye. Although it's a beautiful story that shows one's youth to get in touch with martial arts in order to pursue a girl, his father-in-law, grandfather and grandmother will definitely not think so." The headline. This year's youth competition champion was beaten black and blue by an old man in his 70s in a street fight. Wei Yi clenched her teeth and was a little mad. She controlled her temper and said with a perfect and elegant smile, "Student Lu Cheng, I feel that you are quite humorous. Maybe everyone will want to know the story more after hearing what you said. If you really want me to say it, that's fine. But is it interesting to listen to a few minutes of lies? Isn't it a waste of time?" Lu Qing gradually adapted to the feeling of the interview, and became more and more free and easy. Of course, it could also be said that he showed his true colors. Wei Yi couldn't help but laugh. "Well, I won't ask, lest you make up a story on the spot. Student Lu Cheng, you have the strength of professional eighth pin, after only 1 year of practicing martial arts. Will there be a situation where your mentality can't keep up with your growth? Other fighters start to practice when they are in their teens. They improve step by step and gradually adapt to the situation where they are stronger than most of the people around them. They won't have the arrogant attitude of looking down on ordinary people." A little. Lu Cheng thought for a moment before replying. "My parents are ordinary people. Most of my relatives and friends are also ordinary people. That's why I've never had the mentality of looking down on others. However, after learning martial arts, I've become more direct and different from before when facing many things." "Oh, what's your thinking?" Wei Yi asked with interest. Lu Qing chuckled. "The idea of beating them up will make them better." Wei Yi covered her mouth and laughed. "It was not easy to stop. You are much funnier than you look. It wasn't like this in the past. Once a person has the foundation, they may be more confident. Plus, with the guidance of good teachers and helpful friends around them, by example, they can communicate more freely with others." Lu Qing spoke frankly with assurance. The following interview was quite smooth. Lu Qing was not witty, But he showed his own style and shared some of his martial arts experience and interesting stories that could be spread. When the interview was over, Wei stood up and reached out to shake hands with Lu Cheng. She smiled and praised. "You did a good job. At your age, it's really good to be able to do such a good job in your first interview. Thank you, it's your good guidance," Lu Cheng said modestly. After chatting for a while, the staff took back the collar microphone and loudspeaker. Lu Cheng turned around and walked out of the studio while turning on his camera. He did not look at the famous anchor again. Wei didn't feel anything about this. She had interviewed so many people. Naturally, she had encountered men of various styles. Some were shy enough to ask for her phone number, some were always looking at her sensitive parts, some had a hobby of collecting female stars, some were arrogant and strong enough to completely ignore her, and some were frank and generous, but only polite. Out of the studio, Lu Cheng saw that there were many missed calls and unread messages on his phone. He called back one by one according to the degree of closeness. First, he called his mother. He heard that they had checked out and were ready to go back to Xiushan. She also told him to go home as soon as possible after the activity. Then he called Fatty Jiang. He said that Qiu Hailin and Chao Lele had been out for too long this time, and they were a little worried about them. Therefore, they checked out at noon and would pick up his uncle and auntie on the way. Then he called Qinrui. He asked if he would like to go back with the bus. For a moment, Lu Cheng thought of the saying, "All good things must come to an end." He sighed with a smile, and told everyone that he would stay for 1 or 2 more days. As for the other messages, most of them were congratulatory messages. At this time, a new call came in. Lu Cheng picked it up and heard a polite female voice. "Hello, Mr. Lu Cheng. There will be a celebration reception for the youth tournament at 7 o'clock tonight. You are the champion. I hope you can take the time to attend. The invitation card has been sent to the front desk of your hotel." "Okay, I'll attend." Lu Cheng had just taken 600,000 yuan from her, so he was willing to cooperate. Besides, he was not the kind of person who put on airs. "If you respect me, I'll respect you tenfold." After hanging up the phone, he suddenly remembered that at the pre-match reception, he had watched Zhang Zhutong climb up the stairs under the illumination of various cameras as an onlooker. Life is full of ups and downs. Lu Cheng complained. Then he sent a message to Yenjika, saying that he was done and would pick her up soon. While waiting for her reply, his phone rang again. It was a familiar number. "Master?" Lu Cheng was startled and inexplicably frightened. "Usually, I'm the one who calls. Why is Master calling me today? Didn't I already tell him the good news last night?" "Hello, Master." Lu Cheng answered the call carefully, as if he was holding a bomb in his hand. Geezer coughed and said, "Brat, you're getting more and more famous. Take a few days off and come to Wuxia. I have to introduce you to your sect." Damn, my original idea was that this brat should have reached professional 8th pin by the end of the summer vacation. I would teach him for half a year and wait for his strength to stabilize. Then, I would bring him to meet my fellow disciples and formally acknowledge him as my master. But in the end, not only did he step into the dance stage within a month, but he also won the youth tournament. His reputation spread like wildfire, and I received several questioning calls in the morning. Recognize my sect and meet my fellow disciples? Lu Cheng suddenly felt nervous. Chapter 281. Lu Cheng was a little nervous because of the unfamiliar sect and fellow sect members. He picked up Yenjika and went to an old restaurant where they had reserved a place. This restaurant specialized in yellow beef, steaming, frying, roasting, stewing, and so on. After ordering the dishes, the girl took out a packet of tissues from her orange bag and handed it to her boyfriend. "Wipe your face." "What's this?" Lu Cheng took it with a confused look. "Makeup remover wipes. Didn't you put on makeup for the program?" Yenjika replied with a smile. "Makeup remover wipes? I've never heard of it," Lu Cheng said with embarrassment. Yenjika tilted her head slightly and laughed. "Idiot, you should know what it's for from the name. It's easy to use. Just wipe it on your face until there's no more yellow stuff. Then you'll be clean." But I wash my face after the program." Lu Qing was half confused and half defending himself. Yanjika chuckled. I knew you would say that. A lot of cosmetics can't be washed off with water. Why else do you think girls would prepare makeup remover lotion and oil? With your control over your skin and your sensing ability, don't you feel uncomfortable on your face? So that's why. I was wondering why I didn't feel fresh enough. I thought it was because I showered in a hurry. I was thinking of taking a good shower before the banquet. Lu Qing was enlightened. If it weren't for the fact that the brain was off limits for mighty ones with physical invulnerability, he would have washed his face with the vibration of internal training. While talking, he took out a wet wipe and wiped his face. As expected, a lot of yellow stuff came off. How is it? Did you learn something new? Yanjika raised her head slightly and smiled, showing a bit of complacency. Lu Qing finished and smiled sincerely. Thank you, Coach Yen, no life coach. You've broadened my horizons again. Yanjika chuckled and sighed suddenly. Chung, we may not be able to date tomorrow. My parents are going to visit a friend's house, and they have to drag me along. Sigh, I hate this kind of thing. It's fine if we are familiar with each other, but if we only see each other 3 or 4 times a year, it will be very uncomfortable. When they are talking, I have to sit beside them and pretend to listen carefully. Sometimes I have to answer some questions that I don't want to answer. If we meet 1 or 2 naughty kids, it will be indescribable. While talking, she found that Lu Qing was looking at her with a smile. She couldn't help but pout. What are you looking at? Are you disappointed to find out that I have a side that complains about this and that? Nope, I think the complaining cuckoo is super cute. Lu Qing replied with a smile. Then he explained. It feels more real and human. I also feel that the distance between us is closer. Yanjika held back her laughter and rolled her eyes at him. You're talking as if I wasn't a human before. I'm not human anymore. Of course, it's the scent of a fairy, Lu Qing said seriously. Yanjika couldn't help but laugh. She curved her lips and turned her head to the side. What should I do? I feel like I've been cheated. When we first started talking last year, I didn't expect you to say something like this. People will grow, especially when they have a competent life mentor. Lu Qing answered without blushing. Yeah, people's skin will become thicker, Yanjika said grumpily. Lu Qing laughed and held the girl's hand. He helped her massage her acupoints and changed the topic. Cuckoo, will you attend the celebration banquet for the youth tournament tonight? He had heard from Ku that Empress Dowager had received an invitation. No. Yanjika shook her head. I'm afraid that someone won't be able to hold himself back and talk to me. My dad will find out. If 2 people in love attended a banquet at the same time, unless they could hold themselves back from contacting each other all the time, it would be easy for others to find out whether it was their words, expressions, or eyes. But could her boyfriend hold himself back from contacting each other all the time? Yanjika held a negative attitude towards the answer, because she had no confidence in herself in this matter. Phew. Lu Qing exhaled and said regretfully. I thought I could see you in an evening dress. Pervert. Yanjika rolled her eyes and scolded him with a smile. Actually, I hate this kind of banquet. Although I can dress up beautifully, I have to socialize with a bunch of unfamiliar people. My face will be stiff from smiling. Anyway, it's super boring. I'd rather do a set of test papers. She complained a lot about the boredom of this kind of banquet. She was in high spirits, which made Lu Qing smile gently. When all the dishes were served, Lu Qing remembered to tell the girl what had happened before. In fact, I can't go on a date tomorrow because I won the youth tournament and my reputation has spread. My master asked me to go to Wuxia immediately and formally become his disciple. Formally become his disciple? Yanjika didn't hide her joy, and was sincerely happy for her boyfriend. Yes, it's so sudden that I'm a little nervous. I don't know what sect it is and what kind of fellow disciples there will be. Lu Qing frankly shared his feelings, hoping that his girlfriend, who was born in a martial arts family, could provide some experience. Yanjika looked up and pondered for a while before she said, That's right. Chung, it's natural for you to be nervous. You can't be so stupid to think that your fellow disciples will be good to you. Even if your master is a mighty one with physical invulnerability, or one of the actual leaders of the sect? What do you mean? Lu Qing didn't know anything about the ecological environment of the sect. Yen Zheka took back her hand and explained seriously. A sect is a group of interests. Before you appeared, they had formed a stable distribution of interests. But you, as the champion of the youth tournament and a strong professional 8th pin, or even 7th pin, will definitely break this balance. It's not that you can get a lot of benefits now, but with the speed of your growth in the future, who will be the leader and who will be the assistant? What do you think those disciples of the same age as you, who are trained as the next generation of leaders of the sect, will think of you? Will they be harmonious and friendly? She recalled the things that Grandpa and Uncle usually discussed and the content in the books and described it in a sharp and cold tone. Stopping people from making money is like killing their parents. Lu Qing thought for a moment, and answered with a common saying. Especially since he hadn't practiced martial arts with his fellow disciples since childhood, he had feelings for them. He was considered an outsider, a wild, and a gift from heaven. Anyone would reject, resist, and loathe him. Seeing her boyfriend's serious look, Yen Zheka smiled and said, "It won't go that far. After all, your master is in charge, so they won't do anything too outrageous. At most, they will find a reason to provoke you. Don't be provoked and always stay on the right side. It'll be fine as long as you don't get provoked." Okay. Lu Qing nodded thoughtfully. Yen Zheka pursed her lips and said, "Also, don't trust those overly enthusiastic fellow disciples. Actually, you don't need to be afraid of those who come at you openly. What you need to be afraid of are those who play dirty tricks. They will lead you to eat, drink, and have fun and seduce you into depravity. If you really get addicted to something, then it's your own fault. You won't be able to blame them at all. My grandpa had a martial nephew who was crippled in this way. She believed that Qing wouldn't fool around in places like nightclubs, but she was always worried that he wouldn't be able to stand up to others and refuse their kindness." Lu Qing listened in a daze. After a long time he sighed and said, "Where there are people there is Jianghu." At 6:50 p.m. Lu Qing, wearing a white martial arts suit with black edges, arrived at the youth tournament celebration reception in high spirits. A long red carpet had been laid out in front of him. There were fans holding banners and cameras everywhere, just like when he had first met Zhang Zhutong. Lu Qing glanced around and found banners and signs with his name on them. He had a new understanding of the crazy number of fans in the forum in the past 2 days. He took a deep breath and walked to the entrance with a faint smile on his face. He walked on the red carpet with his head held high. Click, click, click. Flashes lit up one after another, and shouts of Lu Qing burst out, welcoming the main character of the night. After walking down the red carpet, Lu Qing entered the banquet hall. Before he had time to look around, he saw a meticulous old man with white hair combed horizontally. "I'll call you nephew. Your master and I have been good friends for many years." The old man laughed and said, "Alas, I'm old and forgetful. I haven't introduced myself yet. I used to be the head of the provincial police department, but now I'm retired. I'm just an old man, Shi Dawei." "Hello, Uncle Shi. Sorry for troubling you." Lu Qing followed his master's seniority and greeted him. Back then, regarding Wang Su's matter, Master must have used this clue to find Director Xing step by step. Shi Dawei laughed and said, "It's just a small matter. Don't mention it all the time. Come, let me introduce you to some seniors." He led Lu Qing to Yin Huaming and introduced him again. "This is Xiao Yin, the chairman of the Provincial Martial Artist Association. You can call him Brother Yin, but he's not young anymore. You'd better call him Uncle Yin. You're a martial artist, so don't worry about this." "Hello, Uncle Yin." Lu Qing almost burst out laughing. He followed the guidance and called him Uncle Yin. Yin Huaming shook his head with a smile. "Martial Uncle Shi, I'm only 10 years younger than you." With this new introduction and Lu Qing calling him Uncle Yin, their relationship was different. "Who told your master to accept a disciple at the age of 20? Shi Dawei laughed and scolded him. Then he introduced Lu Qing to Luo Zhong, the governor in charge of martial arts affairs, Yu Hong, the senior vice principal of the police academy, and the boss of the Divine Fire Club, Gao Jianxi, a 60-year-old fourth pin expert. He introduced the big shots of the Qing province martial arts world to his nephew. Seeing one stranger after another and greeting them with a smile, Lu Qing thoroughly understood the feeling of Yan Zhika's face stiffening up when she talked to him. After a round of socializing with the big shots, he slipped to the balcony with the excuse of going to the bathroom. He hid in a corner and complained to his girlfriend. In the end he said, "This is probably the trouble of being famous. Compared to this kind of banquet, I'd rather study with you in the classroom." Before Yan Zhika replied, Lu Qing saw a tall man enter the balcony with a glass of red wine. He looked less than 40 years old and was very thin. His eyes hid deep tiredness, but his spirit gave people a feeling of excitement. "Lu Qing?" The man chuckled and raised his glass. "Hello." Lu Qing answered instinctively out of habit. Then he raised his glass of water. "I'm Wang Zhou." The man said with a smile, "Last night there was a rumor in the underworld that someone offered 30 million yuan for your head." "Ah." Lu Qing was surprised and confused. "Who did I offend?" Wang Zhou sipped the wine and said leisurely, "The rumor disappeared as soon as it came out. Because no one who can kill you is willing to sacrifice a stable life. There's no need to take risks. After all, we live in a stable and harmonious society. Besides, even if you get the money, you may not be alive to spend it. This is just a small episode. Don't worry too much. It just means that someone doesn't like you very much." "How do you know?" Lu Qing thought for a while and asked. Wang Zhou gently swirled his wine glass, turned around and left, leaving behind a sentence. "My friends in the martial arts world like to call me Master Ba." "Master Ba?" "Master Ba behind the Sage Hall." No wonder. Lu Qing took a breath and suddenly felt that his life seemed to be a little different after this championship. Will I encounter any problems when I formally become a disciple? In the venue of the banquet, Gu Shuang, in a black evening dress, secretly looked at the balcony and sent a message to Yan Zhika. "Hehe, cuckoo, your man is very honest. He didn't even look at those socialites. Those philatelists are very disappointed." "Why do you care about this?" Yan Zhika replied with anger and amusement. "By the way, bring me 4 bottles of original proof wine from Ningxue Daku. Cheng has to meet his master tomorrow. He can't go empty-handed." The next day, Lu Qing took his luggage and went to the airport to start his journey. Destination: Wuxia Province. Chapter 282. After checking in the 4 bottles of original proof spirit from Ningxue Daku, Lu Qing carried his luggage, took his boarding pass, and arrived at the security check area according to the sign. Since Yan Zhika helped to book the tickets, she chose the first-class cabin out of habit, so Lu Qing didn't have to wait in the long line. After a short wait, he finished the security check through the VIP passage and found the corresponding airline's VIP lounge, where he had a free buffet. When it was almost boarding time, Lu Qing didn't hear any news of delay. He secretly praised his good luck for taking a plane for the first time and showed it off to Yan Zhika. Then he left the VIP lounge and boarded the plane without waiting in line. This was a medium-sized passenger plane. The seats in the first-class business class were essentially the same as those in the economy class, except that they were more spacious. There were 4 seats in the first 2 classes, 2 seats on the left and right sides, and 6 seats in the latter class. Lu Qing found his seat according to the information on his boarding pass. He stuffed his backpack into the luggage rack and sat by the window, looking at the blazing sun outside. To be honest, the news revealed by Master Li last night made him, who had not seen much of the world, a little nervous. He could not help but think about all sorts of things. Although this was just an episode, an unremarkable wave that was unlikely to become reality. What if he encountered a lunatic? Lu Qing, who had read a lot of novels, knew very well that killing had nothing to do with the level of martial arts. With the right arrangement and plan, even a weak child could kill an adult man. Dan's stage and physical invulnerability mighty ones had families and jobs and belonged to the middle and upper class of society, so they didn't need to take risks for money. But what about other people? I'm not afraid of sniping, but I can't guard against poison. If it doesn't taste right, I'll spit it out immediately. Besides, there were bombs, car accidents. Lu Cheng's thoughts flew. Unknowingly, The passenger next to him came. He waited for the plane to taxi, the end of the traffic control, and the climb to the blue sky. According to popular literature, a certain country's intelligence agency was best at silencing people with a plane crash. This was the best way to avoid leaving any clues. Lu Cheng's heart tightened. He quickly extinguished the thought in his mind. He took a deep breath and visualized the scene of water turning into ice. He began to recall Coach Yan's guidance. It won't be too exaggerated. After all, they are from the same sect. There are elders above and the country watching. Unless it's a life-and-death situation, there will be a minimum level of struggle. 30 million for a head is very strange. According to my deduction, someone must have released the news on purpose to stir up the situation. There won't be any follow-up. You don't need to think too much. Follow the rules and leave the rest to your master. Trust your elder's experience and ability. Coach Yan is really a rational girl. Lu Cheng felt the turbulence caused by the turbulence of the plane and looked out of the window again. Below the plane was a boundless sea of clouds. White snow piled up into mountains, waves, and all kinds of strange shapes. In the distance, the scorching sun was shining brightly, dyeing everything golden. 2.5 hours later, the plane landed on time at Shanggao Airport in Wuxia Province. Lu Cheng's last worry was gone. Being high up in the sky, if anything were to happen, there was a limit to what he could do. It was truly beyond the control of others. But once his feet were on the ground, even if he didn't dare to say that he was in control of his own life and not the heavens, he could still deal with whatever came his way. No wonder some martial arts experts didn't like to take planes. No matter how far they were, they preferred to take trains or ships. Taoist Wu Guang, the master of warrior sage Qian Donglu and the current sect leader of Shangqing sect, was one of them. Not long after landing, Lu Cheng turned on his phone and texted Yan Zhika that he had arrived safely. Then he got off the plane, picked up 4 bottles of wine, and carried his luggage to the arrival hall. He glanced around and suddenly saw a sign with the words, Lu Cheng of Xing Province, written on it. He squinted and saw that it was held by a young girl. She was about 1.7 meters tall, and wore large sunglasses that covered half of her face. Her nose was straight, and her lips were full. Her hair was straight and glossy. She wore a light-colored t-shirt and a white knee-length skirt. Her legs were bare, and she wore a pair of sandals. She attracted a lot of glances from the surrounding men. Although her legs were fair and straight, Lu Cheng could tell from the girl's vigorous chi and blood that she could crush 1 or 2 heads with a kick. Is this how the sect welcomes its guests? He walked over as he pondered. The girl also noticed his presence from the way he was looking at her. She was stunned at first, then waved her right hand excitedly and shouted in a delicate voice, "Junior uncle! Junior Uncle Lu Cheng! You are?" Lu Cheng came to her side and asked cautiously. The girl didn't take off her sunglasses. She smiled and said, "I'm your martial niece, your cute and pretty martial niece. I was in the sect when I heard you were coming, so I volunteered to pick you up. Let's talk on the way to the parking lot. I'm Mo Jingting. You can call me Jingjing, Tingting or Jingting." Mo Jingting? Why does this name sound so familiar? Lu Cheng had seen his little fairy act coquettishly. How could he be confused by a few words? He picked up his phone and smiled. "I'll tell my master." "Okay." Mo Jingting put away the tag and stood elegantly. She still didn't take off her sunglasses. "Hello, master. I'm here. A martial niece named Mo Jingting is waiting for me at the airport." Lu Cheng asked. Geezer sure chuckled. "This girl is not easy to deal with. Tell her to come and pick me up." "Forget it. Give her the phone. I'll tell her myself." "Okay." Lu Cheng passed the phone to Mo Jingting. "Oi. Okay. Don't worry, martial uncle. We'll be right there." Mo Jingting said yes for a while, then hung up and returned the phone to Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng followed her to the parking lot after his master had confirmed it. On the way, the girl was quite cheerful and outgoing. She kept asking questions, as if she wanted to dig out all the secrets of his junior uncle. Lu Cheng responded cautiously. He wasn't very enthusiastic. After boarding a Q7, Mo Jingting finally took off her huge sunglasses, revealing a face that looked both happy and angry at the same time. Her eyebrows were black, but not ugly. On the contrary, she looked a little naive. Her eyes seemed to be naturally a little out of focus. She looked at everyone with misty eyes full of affection. Lu Qing glanced at her warily. He suddenly understood why the name Mo Jingting sounded so familiar to him. He had listened to her song last night. She was one of the more popular stars in recent years. She was an actress and had released 2 albums. She was about 21 or 22 years old. She was the most fantasized girl in the boys' dormitory. She was the dream girl of old Chiu and the beast next door. She's actually my martial niece? Damn it. She's obviously a few years older than me. How dare she act cute in front of me? Noticing Lu Cheng's surprise, Mo Jingting fastened her seatbelt skillfully and said with a smile, "Junior uncle, you recognize me? I didn't want to fight in the ring in my prime. Plus, I had some connections in the sect, so I became a martial arts actor. I had a concert the day before yesterday and had a few days off, so I came back to have fun. Then I met Junior Martial Uncle who wanted to formally become your disciple. I was curious, so I took the initiative to volunteer. Junior Martial Uncle, please help me adjust the rearview mirror. Move it up a little, move it a little. I'll do it myself." She unfastened her seatbelt and leaned over Lu Cheng. She reached out to adjust the rearview mirror of the passenger seat. The light and distant smell of perfume entered Lu Cheng's nose. From this angle, Lu Cheng could see the beautiful scenery as long as he lowered his head. Lu Cheng leaned back and looked straight ahead. He was still digesting the fact that his martial niece was a star. But even a star is not as beautiful as my Ku. His eyes were gentle and his smile was hidden. After Mo Jingting adjusted the rearview mirror, fastened her seatbelt and started the car, Lu Cheng took the initiative to ask, "Junior, martial niece, what is our sect called?" "Didn't Martial Granduncle tell you before?" Mo Jingting asked in surprise. "No," Lu Cheng answered honestly. Mo Jingting couldn't help but laugh. "Junior uncle, why do I feel like you were abducted into the sect? Martial Granduncle is too irresponsible. He doesn't say anything. Our sect is called the Ice God Sect. To outsiders, the Ice Empress who created the Ice Divine Kung Fu thousands of years ago is the founder of the sect. But in fact 573 years ago, Yang Chenghui from Wuxia obtained the incomplete version of the Ice Divine Kung Fu. That was how our sect came to be. More than 100 years ago, in order to complete this unique skill of the Ice Sect, we joined forces with Haishi Sect, Hanqi Sect and Dinghai Sect to establish the Wuxia Club. We became one of the top forces at that time." At this point, Mo Jingting glanced sideways at Lu Cheng and bit her lip slightly. "Young martial uncle, if you hear any bad rumors these days, don't believe them. The Haishi Sect, the Hanqi Sect, and the Dinghai Sect don't want our Ice God Sect to be peaceful. It would be best if there is some internal strife. Could it be that these sects were behind the 30 million price? To incite internal strife in the Ice God Sect?" Lu Cheng thought for a while and said, "The Wuxia Club doesn't get along well with each other either." As he spoke, he quickly sent a message to Yan Zhika and shared it with her with a stunned expression. "The one who came to pick me up is Mo Jingting. The one who sang, 'Waiting for the Wind.' She is my martial niece." "Oh, Cheng, you are a disciple of the Ice God Sect," Yan Zhika quickly replied. Mo Jingting looked ahead and sighed. "Our Ice God Sect has produced 4 physical invulnerability experts in 2 generations. We are in the leading position in the Wuxia Club. However, 3 of the 4 physical invulnerability experts are old, and are from the same generation as our martial granduncle. In this generation, only martial uncle Yuejian is holding the fort. Huang Ke from Haishi Sect is suppressing us and the clown from Dinghai Sect is chasing after us. They don't want to break the alliance, but they want to change the current situation." Huang Ke from Haishi Sect. Lu Cheng whispered this name. Since he often watched top professional competitions, he naturally knew this expert. A 45-year-old expert with a title. The Spear King of the generation. Chapter 283. Dinghai Sect's clown Gu Jianqi was very legendary. His parents had died when he was young, and he had been abducted and sold to the war-torn areas in the south. He had never received a proper martial arts education, and he had relied on a few manuals that could be found on the streets: talent, passion, focus, and 3 meals of fights to temper his unique martial arts. He had also developed a ruthless, rebellious, and unyielding character. People like him would usually die in some conflict before they reached adulthood. Fortunately, before that time came, he was noticed by an elder of the Dinghai sect who was passing by. Appreciating his talent and ability, the elder used his connections to bring him back to the country. At that time, he was just over 17 years old, and his strength had already surpassed that of a normal professional 9th pin. After joining Dinghai sect, he didn't major in the Ice sect's secret arts like most mighty ones in Wuxia club. Instead, he chose the incomplete version of the Death sect. After that, he made great strides and created miracles time and time again. From time to time, he would defeat stronger opponents. He reached 5th pin at 22 and stepped into the inhuman stage. At 25, which was last year, he made a great leap and achieved physical invulnerability. His nickname came from the clown tattoo on his arm and neck. Thinking about Gun King Huangku and Clown Gu Jianxi's situation, Lu Qing roughly understood why Mo Jingting had said that senior sister Tsukino had a mountain in front of her and an army behind her. According to public information, Shi Yuejian achieved physical invulnerability at 29 and was classified as a 3rd pin. Now that 6 years had passed, she was still a 3rd pin. Her momentum was no longer comparable to that of the clown, let alone catching up to Huangku. In the next few years, before the 3 mighty ones of physical invulnerability from the previous generation completely aged, the Ice God sect's position in Wuxia club wouldn't be shaken. However, time is cruel. Once the heroes of the old era gradually left the stage, and the rising stars of the new era couldn't replace them, the Ice God sect would definitely have to give up a large portion of the benefits. All the hustle and bustle in the world was for benefits. Understanding this, Lu Qing couldn't help but sigh. So you'll be beaten if you fall behind. Isn't that so? I heard that you reached 8th pin in a year, and are catching up to Peng Liyun and Ren Li. Everyone is looking forward to it. Mo Jingting tilted her head and winked, smiling sweetly. She seemed to be flirting with everyone she looked at. She made it sound like the whole sect is kind to me. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat, and he became even more wary of Mo Jingting. In the grand scheme of things, it was reasonable for the Ice God sect members to look forward to the geniuses and themselves. However, the world was filled with people who only cared about themselves and didn't care about the overall situation. You flatter me, I can't compare to Peng Liyun and Ren Li. Lu Qing replied to Yanjika's message perfunctorily. Yeah, I just found out that I'm from the Ice God sect. Only after a year of apprenticeship and stepping into Korchi realm, did he know which sect he was a disciple of. Her master was too unreliable. Yanjika giggled. You're living a tough life. Shi Yuejian of the Wuxia club should be your senior sister. Coach Shi must be her senior. It's not that simple. My master has a daughter. Lu Qing could roughly guess the relationship between Shi Yuejian and his master. At the same time, he diverted some of his attention to listen to Mo Jingting talk about the internal strife of the Wuxia club. Yanjika talked about Shi Yuejian for a while, and suddenly asked, why did Mo Jingting take the initiative to pick you up? And she's alone. What's wrong with that? I called my master and he didn't object. Lu Qing was confused. But my master just said that Mo Jingting was not easy to deal with. On the surface, there seems to be nothing wrong, but my intuition tells me that there's a problem. She's already half out of the martial arts world, so there's no need for her to be so passionate. Tell me what she did just now, don't leave out anything. Yanjika crossed her hands and supported her chin. Nothing much. She just held up a sign and waited for me at the arrival hall. She acted cute and talked to my master for a while. Then she took me to the car and introduced the sect and Wuxia club to me. She even asked me to adjust the rearview mirror for her. Lu Qing typed as he pondered. After a moment of silence, Yanjika sent an emoji of sitting blankly. Silly boy, you were flirted with. Huh? Lu Qing was confused. I can't figure it out. Did she think that you didn't adjust the mirror well enough, so she leaned over and adjusted it herself? Yanjika replied. Yeah, how did you know? What's wrong with that? Lu Cheng was very surprised. Thinking back to the scene where Mo Jingting leaned over and adjusted the rearview mirror, it was a bit ambiguous. Silly boy, her car is of high quality. The rearview mirror can be adjusted electronically, and she drove the car to the airport. Do you think she didn't adjust the rearview mirror well? Yenjika sent an emoji of covering her face. F***ck. Lu Cheng suddenly realized and felt that he was too naive. I didn't know. I didn't even get a driver's license and we don't have a car. I believe you. She must have found out about this. That's why she flirted with you. Yenjika sent an emoji of exhalation. How did you feel when you were flirted with just now? I didn't feel anything. I'm such a decent person, and I still remember Coach Yan's teachings. I have to be careful of those who are especially passionate about me in the sect. I don't want to fall for the sugar-coated bullets. Lu Cheng explained quickly. If you weren't afraid of the sugar-coated bullets, would you feel anything? She's a superstar who threw herself at you. Yenjika sent an emoji of go away. Being tricked by Yenjika again. Lu Cheng sent an emoji of injustice. I'm someone who has been flirted with by a little fairy. Why would I be attracted by someone below the standard? When did I flirt with you? Don't leave after school. Tell me clearly. Yenjika said angrily. On a certain day, I woke up with a mouthful of lip balm. Snickering emoji, Lu Cheng replied. That's not true. And Mo Jingting doesn't count as below the standard. You're exaggerating. Looking up at the sky expression. Yenjika sent an emoji. My standard is based on a little fairy. Lu Cheng changed the topic. What do you think Mo Jingting is trying to do by flirting with me? Yenjika sent a picture of Ishio and Gugu chattering. The first possibility is to ruin your reputation. Martial uncle and martial nephew being together is a big scandal in the Jianghu. The second possibility is just like what I've analyzed before. She's trying to seduce you and lead you astray. Today she'll find you a few celebrities, tomorrow she'll find you a few models, and the next day she'll throw you a feast or something to liven things up. Why are you so detailed? Lu Cheng wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. I'm afraid you'll fall for it, so I specially consulted someone and listed out the situation. Raising head proudly emoji, Yenjika sent. Lu Cheng was about to say something when he suddenly felt a hint of jealousy in her words. He was delighted and laughed. Are you jealous? Yenjika, who was always rational, couldn't help but feel jealous when she knew there was nothing going on. No, Yenjika denied firmly. She hurriedly continued. The third possibility is that she's always been able to get the best resources in the entertainment circle because of the Ice God sect and Wuxia club behind her. She also knows that she's given up on martial arts, and probably won't be able to enter the Danchi state in this lifetime. She won't have an important position in the sect. Once her original backing loses its influence, it'll be hard for her to be in the limelight again. It's not strange that she hooked up with you in advance as an investment. Lu Cheng pondered for a while and smiled as he typed on the keyboard. Unfortunately, I only have eyes for my little fairy. Don't be so mushy. Yenjika scolded. Mo Jingting glanced at Lu Cheng and asked in confusion. Young martial uncle, what are you laughing at? I was chatting with my girlfriend. She said that my martial nephew is a superstar. Lu Cheng answered meaningfully. You have a girlfriend? Mo Jingting was stunned. Yes. Lu Cheng's smile was obvious and his eyes were gentle. It seems that you like her a lot. Mo Jingting subconsciously asked. Of course. Lu Cheng admitted it without feeling embarrassed at all. Mo Jingting pouted and said, Young martial uncle, I'm so envious of her. At this moment, there was a car in front of them. Mo Jingting stepped on the brakes and let the handbag beside her roll down. The handbag had a zipper and was not closed, so the bottles and cans inside were scattered all over the ground. Young martial uncle, help me pick them up. Mo Jingting requested in a coquettish tone. Lu Cheng bent down and picked up the handbag. He picked up the things that had rolled to his side and put them in the bag. The two lipstick and lipstick on the opposite side happened to be under Mo Jingting's body. Looking at the pair of white, tender, and straight legs, Lu Cheng wanted to lean over to pick them up. But he laughed and said frankly, You can pick up the rest when we stop the car. Anyway, you won't lose them. Seeing that there was no hesitation in his expression, Mo Jingting was silent for a while, and then put on a bright smile again. Yo, young martial uncle, you're really a gentleman. She resolved the awkwardness with this attitude, and continued to talk about the internal affairs of the sect. At this time, Yanjika sent a new message to Lu Cheng. I've asked around. Mo Jingting is the grand disciple of He, the leader of the Ice God sect. She's the disciple of his eldest disciple, Yang Xianlong. He is a physical invulnerability mighty one, and should be considered your martial uncle. Yang Xianlong is the eldest senior brother of your generation. He's from the same generation as Spear King Huang Ku, but he hasn't been able to reach the physical invulnerability mighty one. He's 50 years old now, but he's still a professional fourth pin dan stage. Among his disciples, the most valued one was his second disciple, Zhu Tai. He reached the dan stage at the age of 20, but only reached the high pin at the age of 28. Anyway, listen to your master later. If you have any thoughts, tell him honestly. Don't hide anything. Mo Jingting is a disciple of the sect leader. Lu Qing nodded slightly. At this time, Mo Jingting parked the car by the roadside. There was a villa area nearby. Geezer, wearing an old man's shirt, stood there unsteadily without any image of a mighty one with physical invulnerability. Lu Qing quickly got out of the car and opened the back door. He handed over the original proof wine that had always been beside him. Master, this is a specialty of our place. Geezer smiled satisfactorily and took the wine before sitting in the car. He opened the bottle and took a sip. This wine is good. You still have some conscience. You still remember to show filial piety to your master. Your disciple's wife is considerate. Lu Qing answered silently. He didn't sit in the front passenger seat anymore. He sat side by side with his master, and was completely relieved. He would listen to his master's instructions from now on. Martial granduncle, the more you live, the more spirited you are. The more you live, the more carefree you are. Mo Jingting smiled and complimented. Geezer chuckled and said, Of course I'm comfortable. I don't have to worry about the internal affairs of the sect. I take the offerings and enjoy the benefits. I don't have to be busy. I only have to do something once in a while. Why wouldn't I be comfortable? Speaking of this, he turned to Lu Cheng and asked in front of Mo Jingting, Brat, do you want to be high and mighty in the future and be so busy that your feet don't touch the ground? Or do you want to be as comfortable as an old man like me? Do you want to fight in the arena and accompany your wife? Before Lu Cheng could answer, he clearly felt Mo Jingting's body tensing up. He took a breath and recalled the busy, boring, and annoying times after winning the championship. He said sincerely, I want to focus on martial arts. Chapter 284. I want to focus purely on martial arts. After saying this, Lu Qing felt as if the dust in his heart had been swept away. Those social interactions, quarrels, trifles, and turbulent undercurrents were all not what he wanted. Being sincere to martial arts, to the people he loved, even if it was just holding textbooks and discussing topics, was much better than fighting for power. At the same time, he felt Mo Jingting's tense body soften. She smiled with a delicate voice and said, Martial granduncle, what you said just now was wrong. Nowadays, professionalism is very important. There are professional managers and talented disciples in the company watching over them. The sect leader is just a general manager and a supervisor. How can he be so busy? He's also very free and leisurely. What does she mean? Which side is Mo Jingting on? What is she thinking? Or is she just saying it casually to diffuse the awkwardness? Lu Qing was stunned. He was puzzled by the words of the sect leader's martial niece. Compared to her, his social experience was indeed too shallow. You little girl, you can't even hear a word of truth from your mouth. How many companies have the sect developed until now? How many industries are involved? Just the supervision alone is enough to give me a headache. Besides, this is not the only thing. Within the sect, within the alliance, and in the Jianghu, there are many traps that need to be kept alert. Geezer snorted. He looked as if he had eaten more salt than she had eaten rice. These can also be assisted by people who are good at them. The sect leader is very leisurely. He only needs 3 to 4 hours of work every day. Mo Jingting answered with a smile. Gizershur ignored her and turned to look at his silly disciple. Don't rush to answer. Think carefully. Don't worry about external factors. If you're afraid of these little things, how can you survive in the Jianghu in the future? Don't think about other things. Just ask yourself what you really want. Someone once said that once you've tasted power, it's like being addicted to drugs. Don't make a decision blindly because you haven't experienced it. He said it casually, but the meaning behind his words made Mo Jingting stunned. She unconsciously frowned. Is this the spirit of a mighty one with physical invulnerability? Don't worry about external factors. With me here, it's not a problem? Yes, master. Lu Qing closed his eyes, reminiscing about the past, imagining some scenes he had seen on TV and heard from others. Gizershur chuckled and said, I won't say more about the benefits of being in charge of a sect. But if you choose to be an idle person, you won't have to stick to the Wuxia club if you really have the chance to participate in the top professional competitions in the future. Ah, how can I not participate in the Wuxia club? Lu Qing opened his eyes in surprise. Once he knew about the situation of the sect, he believed that joining the Wuxia club would be a sure thing after he reached the high pin, or even the physical invulnerability stage. How could he betray the sect? Gizershur clicked his tongue and said, The Wuxia club is just an alliance, not a sect. We've done our duty by ensuring that there is one physical invulnerability expert representing the Wuxia club in the top professional competitions. Other powers are willing to recruit guest elders. You don't teach your martial arts to outsiders, don't hold authority, and don't do things that are detrimental to the foundation of the Wuxia club. Joining them is not a betrayal. There are precedents. However, sects like Daxing Temple and Shangqing sect almost never invite guest elders. Like Yanjiao League and Longhu Club, there is no lack of foreign mighty ones. You can also marry into Shushan study. I don't mind. Marry into? Lu Qing wiped the cold sweat in his heart. He wanted to roll his eyes at his master. Marry into Shushan study? Mo Jingting's plump lips were half opened. She took a deep breath thoughtfully. At this point, Gizershur sighed. Shangqing, Shushan, and Longhu Club are in charge of the restriction sect of Taoism. I've been eyeing it for many years. Sigh. The restriction sect, the head of the 5 sects' unique arts of Taoism, is in the hands of Shangqing sect, Shushan study, and Longhu Club? Lu Qing had never heard of such a secret before. He blurted out, I thought part of it would be in the hands of the government. No wonder these 3 sects, regardless of their ups and downs, were always in the top 6 of the top forces. Gizershur looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Longhu Club has caught up with the sects with a long history in more than 30 years. Who do you think is behind them? Oh, I see. Lu Qing didn't care about his master's look at all. He took out his phone and shared the news with Ko out of habit. I know. My grandpa and grandma have experienced it. The one in Shushan Study's hands is called the Tai Ching chapter. Yenjika sent a blank emoji and shared the secret with her boyfriend. I just found out about Longhu Club. Sigh, I'm so ignorant. It's all my grandpa's fault. They rarely talk about this. Same. My master looked at me like I was an idiot just now. Lu Qing complained to his girlfriend. You are an idiot, Chung. You don't even know you're being flirted with. Yenjika snorted. It means I'm simple and honest. I only have my little fairy in my heart. Lu Qing said affectionately. After the conversation just now, Mo Jingting became silent and focused on driving. It was not until they got out of the ring road and turned into the winding mountain road that she regained her cheerfulness. She introduced with a smile. Junior uncle, nominally, the sect is still halfway up Mount Yanbing, but people rarely come back. There are hardly many people here unless there is a formal ceremony. However, it's very nice to come here for a holiday. It's especially good to avoid the heat in summer. Why? Lu Qing asked in confusion. Gizershur said impatiently. Today is different from the past. A sect gathering in the wilderness. Are they waiting to be bombed by missiles? Are they waiting to be wiped out? Mo Jingting laughed and added, the sect has an ice god building in the busiest business district in Moshang. All the daily affairs are done there. Normally, everyone lives in their own places. Only the junior brothers and sisters who haven't finished their apprenticeship are arranged together. Haha, every year they are locked up here to practice martial arts for a period of time. Moshang was the provincial capital of Wuxia. While listening to the introduction, Lu Cheng was also reading the information provided by his little fairy, such as the famous disciples and their respective masters. When they were halfway up the mountain, he had a preliminary but relatively complete understanding of the Ice God sect. He, Shunguitian, and his master, who was not well known, were the previous generation's 3 physical invulnerability elders. There were still a few dance stage experts of the same generation, but their physical condition was much worse. There was no need for them to not fight. In his generation, there was senior sister Yuejian, a physical invulnerability expert. There were also 4 high-ranked dance stage senior brothers and sisters who were in charge of different affairs in the sect, assisting the sect leader. There were also a dozen dance stage peers who were basically managing the sect's businesses. In the next generation, the oldest was only in his 30s. Including Zhu Tai, there were 2 high-ranked ones and 10 low-ranked ones. Some entered the Wuxia Club to train with the physical invulnerability mighty ones, and some participated in professional competitions at other levels. One of the Wuxia Club's sects had more than 30 dance stage experts, which showed how terrifying the top forces were. The Shangqing sect alone probably had more dance stage experts than the whole Xing province. In the next generation, there were not many disciples, and most of them were underage. We're here, Mo Jingting announced in a light tone and parked the car outside the mountain gate. The nearby pine forest was like a sea, and the sound of waves brought a refreshing feeling in the hot summer. The mountain gate was carved out of a huge stone, ancient and simple, with the words, Ice God Sect written on it. Let's go meet your sect leader uncle first. You'll officially become his disciple tomorrow. Geezer sure got out of the car leisurely. Okay. Lu Qing followed obediently. Mo Jingting unbuckled her seatbelt, leaned over to the window and said with a smile, Junior uncle, let's add each other on WeChat. We'll be fellow disciples in the future. My poor junior nephew will have to rely on you to take care of him. I don't use WeChat. Lu Qing declined politely. He had applied for WeChat, but no one around him used it, so he was too lazy to do it himself. Okay. Mo Jingting curled her lips and showed an aggrieved expression. She sat up straight and drove the car to the parking place. Geezer sure stood beside them and quietly watched their conversation. Then he clicked his tongue and said, This girl is so cunning. When she was still in the sect, she made a bunch of senior brothers fall head over heels in love with her. In the end, none of them even touched her hand. Master, it's not good for you to say that. Lu Cheng's mouth twitched. You're an elder. How can you say that behind my back? What's not good about it? If they can do it, I can say it. Geezer sure chuckled. This girl has been in the entertainment industry for a few years now. She's getting more and more capable. Don't be fooled. Master, don't worry. I'm not that kind of person. Lu Qing replied calmly. I only like girls like little fairies. Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly received a message from an unknown number. Young Marshal Uncle, this is my phone number. Take care of me in the future. Your cute and pretty Marshal nephew. D. Lu Qing shook his head. He only felt that this guy was a little annoying, so he casually saved the name Marshal nephew Mo Geezer. Sure didn't say anything else. He led Lu Cheng through the halls and rooms, past the patrolling disciples, and arrived at the place where the plaque, Ice Queen Pavilion, was hung. Have you thought about what happened before? Geezer sure stopped here and asked again. He didn't hide his voice. Master, my answer is still the same. I want to focus on martial arts. Lu Qing answered seriously. With strength, there would naturally be corresponding benefits. There was no need to scheme and fight for power. Wouldn't it be better to live a simple and leisurely life? Okay, let's go in. Geezer sure led his disciple, pushed open the door and walked in. Inside, an old man with sparse white hair was standing behind the desk. His cheeks were sagging, and the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes were deep. At this moment he smiled and greeted them. Zhengwo, is this Lu Qing? Zhengwo? Sure, Zhengwo. This is Master's name? Lu Qing suddenly felt like laughing. Considering Master's age, this name is really unique. It just lacks the feeling of a master of a generation. The master of a generation, sure, Zhengwo? Geezer sure glared at his disciple. Yes, senior brother sect leader. This is my useless disciple. Chapter 285. He, the head of the Ice God sect, burst into laughter. If he is a good-for-nothing, what about the other disciples? Lu Qing took a step forward while the two elders were talking and said respectfully, Nice to meet you, martial uncle sect leader. Good. The wrinkles at the corners of He Yi's eyes unfolded layer by layer. I've seen your last 2 matches. You've reached more than level 8 in 1 year. You've even reached level 7. In the history of our Ice God sect, you're already very rare. Well, martial uncle sect leader seems to be more cultured than master. Lu Qing said with a smile. I can't reach professional 7th pin in a year, so I don't plan to attend the ranking event in October. I plan to attend it in April next year. The reason why he was able to defeat Zhang Zhutong and Han Jifei was mainly because he didn't show his true strength in the beginning, causing his opponents to misjudge him. With a bit of luck and a bit of quick-wittedness, he barely managed to win the youth tournament. Through these 2 matches, others could basically figure out his general situation. In this case, if he attended the ranking event of professional 7th pin in October, he would have less than a 50% chance of winning. He'd better consolidate his foundation and break through the limits of the human body and register at the end of April or early May next year. Of course, the premise was that he didn't change much by squeezing the Jindan to improve his supernatural ability. He nodded slightly and praised him. Very good. You're not in a hurry, unlike your master who was impulsive when he was young. I'm full of youthful spirit. The white-haired geezer sure retorted. He shook his head and smiled. 3 years old can tell the difference. Well, you take martial nephew Lu to the Songtao Pavilion. Tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m. He'll formally become your disciple. At this point he looked at Lu Qing and said, Tomorrow is just a formality. You are now an official disciple of our sect. This is also your home, so you don't have to be too restrained. If you have nothing to do at night, you can walk around and interact with your fellow disciples. Don't be too afraid of strangers. He deliberately emphasized the word friendly, as if he was making a final decision. But don't get close to the Tingxian Pavilion, so as not to disturb the guests from Haishi sect, Dinghai sect, and Hanqi. He added, There are guests. Lu Qing blurted out in surprise. Wouldn't this seem too solemn? Our sects are united, and that's why we're in this situation today. They came here with good intentions, so we can't stop them, right? He replied meaningfully. Hey, we old guys are here. Let's just watch the ceremony. What can happen? Geezer sure said grumpily. I'll take this brat to the Songtao Pavilion. He nodded. Go ahead. If you're too tired, it's fine to meet your fellow disciples tomorrow. After watching the 2 of them leave the Ice Queen Pavilion, a well-built man came down the stairs. His hair was black, and his skin was wrinkle-free. He didn't look to be in his 40s, but his eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of time. Master, isn't this apprenticeship ceremony a little too solemn? The man frowned and asked. He chuckled. Solemn? If it's just a professional 7th or 8th pin disciple, there's no need to be so solemn. But this is a disciple who reached professional 8th pin, or even professional 7th pin within a year, and he's not even 20 yet. You heard the conversation between him and your martial uncle, sure. Your little junior brother doesn't like to meddle in things. Xianlong, don't think too much. Don't play tricks in the dark and ruin the atmosphere in the sect. You'll be mocked by the Ocean West Gate and the Dinghai sect. This was Yang Xianlong, the eldest disciple in charge of the daily affairs of the Ice God sect. He was a professional 4th pin dance stage expert in his 50s. His brows were still furrowed, and he said worriedly, Words don't mean anything. Do you want me to sign a document? Since they said so in front of me. They definitely won't go back on their words before I can move. He shook his head. Tell Lei Fong that if he can become a physical invulnerability expert, it'll be his. No one can take it away from him. If he can't get what's not his. In the martial arts sect, strength is the foundation of everything. We can squeeze 1 or 2 people away with connections and outside help, but we can't squeeze out everyone else. Yes, master. Yang Xianlong lowered his head and answered. He turned and left the Ice Queen Pavilion. He stood in the cold room for a long time before he sighed. The scenery in the Songtao Pavilion was great. When he opened the window on the 2nd floor, he could see a sea of trees swaying in the wind. Don't go out tonight. Have a good rest. Tomorrow, after the formal apprenticeship ceremony, you can come to my place. I've got the visualization diagram of Zhu Rong Force. Geezer sure carried the 4 bottles of original proof spirits in his hands, and then disappeared in a flash. He was enjoying himself happily. Zhu Rong Force? Lu Cheng was excited and full of expectation. Having been on the move all the way, his mind was a little tired. He laid on the bed and chatted with his little fairy, chatting idly with his classmates, and browsing the forums and Weibo at the same time. He was living a leisurely life, without the slightest intention of going out to make friends with his fellow disciples. Half a day of leisure. After eating the dinner sent by the servant, he took out the computer in his bag, and planned to play games before the video chat with Yenjika. Ku is a guest at someone's house. Who wants a game? If not, I'll ask later. He sent a message in the university dormitory group and high school friend group. Kai Xiaoming laughed. When we were short of hands, you were either with Yenjika or in the challenge tournament. Now that you have nothing to do, you want to play games with us? Love is not something you can buy whenever you want. At least treat us to a seafood meal. Brother Chung, Master Chung, it's 600,000 yuan. See this money? I bought a gift for Ko. Why should I treat you to a seafood meal? Lu Cheng sent a picture of throwing money. It was quite interesting to bicker with Casanova every day. You're getting more and more disgusting. How dare you call yourself Ko? Kai Zongming made a vomiting gesture. And your fingers are getting more nimble and faster. It's boring to play with you. Of course it's boring to be abused all the time. I'm already controlling myself. I don't dare to use my full strength. Otherwise, the screen will be broken. Lu Cheng laughed with arms akimbo. By the way, Casanova, how's your training during the summer vacation? Haha, I'm invincible in our small city. Okay, I won't brag. I think it's not a problem to dominate our community. I think I've improved a lot. I think I'm at least of amateur 2nd or 3rd pin. Kai Zongming answered with uncertainty. While the two of them were chatting, Kai Zongming's dormitory mate, Qin Mo, the local rich 2nd generation of Songcheng, appeared. Perfect, perfect. Since both of you are here, vote for me. 1 phone number can give 10 votes. What votes? Lu Qing asked casually. A selection. Vote for my Jingting. Qin Mo sent a link. It was a vote for Mo Jingting in a music show. F***CK. Why didn't I see that a beast like you would chase after stars? Every time they talked about this, Kai Zongming would make a sarcastic remark to show his true colors. Qin Mo replied with a bleak expression. Everyone has a white moonlight in their heart. I just happened to be hit by her. F***CK off. Jingting is mine. Old Qiu also showed up and played the part. Zhao Chong, the scholar, sighed helplessly. It's the nth degree season again. We can only help a little. Lu Qing couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he saw everyone making a racket. In the past, I quite liked Mo Jingting's TV shows and songs. But now she doesn't seem to match her image at all. It's better to hear about her than to meet her in person. Before he could say anything, Jiang Fei responded. They formed a team and started to play games. When Yan Zheka returned home and turned on the computer, Lu Cheng pretended to be offline and tricked his teammates. Just as he was enjoying the video chat, he suddenly received a message from Martial Nephew Mo: Young Martial Uncle, isn't the scenery of the sect beautiful at night? Oh, __. Oh, not beautiful. F***CK off. Lu Cheng complained in his heart. He put his phone aside and continued the video chat. He planned to reply when he was free. Then he forgot about it. On the second floor of Tingxian Pavilion, a well-proportioned woman with shoulder-length straight hair was admiring the sea of pine trees at night. Senior sister, why do you think Master asked us to come here to watch the ceremony? Their elders are here. We can't do anything since we can't beat them. A baby-faced young man came out of the room. The woman with shoulder-length straight hair laughed. Master's purpose is very simple. Since we're here and we're standing there, there's a comparison. 25-year-old high rank and 22-year-old rank 6. This is the comparison. But that Lu Qing reached 7th pin in 1 year. That's quite impressive. The baby-faced young man spread his hands helplessly and started to browse Weibo. Suddenly, his eyes lit up when he saw hot news. Xing Province Young Martial Artist Record, for Heavenly Sons. And the one with the most likes below was, how can they be called Heavenly Sons? In my opinion, only Peng Liyun and Run Li are in this generation. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.